Welcome to another episode of Do Go On. My name is Dave Warnicky, and as always, I'm here with Matt Stewart and Jess Perkins.
Hello, Dave and Jess.
Hello, Dave.
Hello, Dave. Welcome to your drive time commute. Am I doing it, Jess? Am I doing radio?
Yeah,
so
you're doing
much.
it.
I'm doing it.
You sounded a bit like the guy in the chopper doing the traffic report.
And looking down there, the traffic is banked up all the way down to Albert Park Lake.
Perfect.
Wow, that's a lot of traffic.
Yeah, into the water. Hey, it's so good to be here on the Do Go On podcast. We're having a great time. Life's good. How are you two doing? When I'm saying we, I was talking about me apparently. And now I'm...
we are good. We are feeling fresh, fit, healthy, fine. When I say we, I am, of course, just referring to myself. Dave, how are you doing?
We are the best. We've never been better. And by we, I mean you two, because I'm terrible.
Okay, we have a quick question for you, Dave. Now, what is this show about for new listeners?
This is a history/comedy program where we take it in turns to report on a topic often suggested to us by one of our dear listeners. The person nominated for that week goes away, does a bit of research, brings it back to the other two, and they don't know what that person's going to talk about, and it's your turn, Matt, to be the reporter. And you always start with a question to get us onto topic.
He does always do that, doesn't he? He always starts with a
I
question.
cannot help myself.
It's a fun quirk of yours.
And your first question is usually, do you mind if I ask you a question? And then a follow-up question.
My question this week is, whose recent autobiography is called No Spin?
No spin. No spin.
It's got to be like a cricketer, right? Spin? Or someone in PR.
Yeah, that's right. It could be...
Or a dancer who could not spin. Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
there's actually a lot of options.
Or it could be the biography of a planet rotating on its axis.
Oh.
Okay.
Is it any of these?
Is it Piers Morgan?
I'll give you one more clue. Their favourite song is The Scientist by Coldplay.
Shane Warne.
It is Shane Warne.
Warnie.
I put this topic up to the vote with three recently passed away legends. And yeah, he came out on top. It was interestingly one of the other ones was Neighbours, the TV show, which jumped out to an early lead.
Yep.
And then Shane Warne just reeled them in.
Yeah, right.
Warnie flew
As
home.
he often did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting because I would have put up the vote Australian time. So maybe Australian listeners wanted Neighbours, and then English and American, although probably not American listeners.
No, American listeners love Neighbours.
The third option was Ronnie of the Ronettes, Ronnie Spector,
Oh.
who also polled very well. It was everyone got votes.
Tie race.
So Warnie's, I think, as far as I can tell in the hat, only suggested by one listener, Isaac Robinson.
Really?
Who said, there's a question when you suggest topics into the hat, why do you think this would be an interesting topic? And Isaac wrote, because it's Shane Warne.
You're
And
not
I
wrong.
say
You're not wrong, Isaac.
No more. So yeah, Warnie died recently, suddenly. So it's been, it's been one of, it's always feels unearned when you feel sad about a celebrity dying.
I found out by taking my phone off flight mode, and a message pops up from you, Jess, in our group chat saying, Shane Warne died.
Yeah, that's how I found it as well.
Yeah.
What?
I woke up early one morning and looked on Instagram and people were posting about it. And I was like, what the... And I had to Google it because I was like, no way.
I also did the same thing. I was like, is this a bit?
I
a
did
weird
too.
bit, but I was like, this can't be true.
A morbid bit,
Or
Jess.
has there been a horrific accident? Or what's happened?
Do you know what? I used to roll my eyes a little bit when, big musicians or stuff would pass away and people would make sort of long Facebook posts about it and talking about their... I don't know. Sometimes I was like, you didn't know him. Like, okay, you're allowed to be... But I think I retract... I take that back, actually, because I think... especially musicians, but different artists, actors, sports people, whoever it is, if they've had any kind of influence on you or if you grew up admiring them or you just liked them as a person, especially when they die relatively young, it does feel really tragic and it makes you sort of think about your own mortality and it makes you think about a lot of different things.
Yeah, he was I think maybe that's part of it because he just was a larger than life guy, which is a massive cliche, but I think he just seemed like, to me, I'm like, he's he's going to live forever. He just felt, I don't know why, which is silly, but he just seemed indestructible.
Well, exactly. It's the type of person that you expect to hear of their death at 99 years old, and and you go,
equaling his highest score with the bat in Test cricket. I didn't mean to lead that discussion off the top.
I kicked that off.
No, I think all of that is interesting, it just took me by surprise. Famous people die all the time, but it just really hit me hard. We were recording an episode that day, and I was listening to the radio, and you could hear so many people who were on the sports station listening to SEN. It was so raw for them. Imagine having to go on to work and talk about a friend of yours, and
awful.
It was a very surreal
We'll probably
day.
just tweet about it if one of us dies. That's probably the easiest.
Yeah, I'll do a TikTok. One of those ones
dance?
where we're pointing to words and say, I'm mourning. Please respect me in this difficult time.
P.S. Jess dead.
And then that soundtrack. Oh, no, 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 no. Is over the top of it.
Oh, no.
And then a robotic voice. Oh, no. I am sorry to report that Dave is now dead.
So you have been spending some time on TikTok.
Yeah, I've seen a few TikToks. I've seen a few.
Matt's Short Comedy if you want to follow me on there. Jess, what's yours?
Jess __ Perkins.
Oh, double underscore.
double.
I'm looking forward to when you guys are superstars so I can join on there and get a little bit of off your coattails.
I think my followers are now in the hundreds. So just a warning, Dave. I might be catching limos around the place soon.
I appreciate that.
So this is a cricket topic, obviously, but I'm trying to keep the cricket. He was a legend on the field, but I'm not going to go into that. I think I made that mistake in the Bradman episode a bit, where I might have talked too much cricket. So feel free, you two, to jump in at any point if you think this is getting a bit baffling for Americans or non-cricket fans or whatever.
Jump in at any point if you think we're not talking enough about cricket.
Let me know.
Well, that too. Dave, you are a big cricket fan. I guess you would have grown up watching a bit of cricket. I don't know you was a cricket fan.
Nah, it's not a sport I understand or particularly enjoy. Backyard cricket, sure.
Yeah.
I can hit
Tippity run.
Tippity, one hand, one bounce. I can hit a cricket ball with the bat.
Yeah, over the fence.
Left or
6 and out?
right-handed.
Wow.
But yeah, it's not a sport I follow a great deal. And so obviously Warnie's a household name in Australia in particular. But I can't say I know a whole heap about the specifics of his career or about his early life or anything. So
yeah, great. Yeah. Well, I think I knew a big chunk of it, and I learnt more. I've listened to his autobiography.
So what's it called? It's called No Spin.
No Spin.
Even though he is a spin bowler.
He's a spin bowler. And I feel like there is definitely spin in the book. Okay. Like he's definitely putting some positive spins on certain events, but as obviously you would in your own autobiography.
Yeah.
And it was read by Reese Muldoon.
Ooh.
Who, I quite enjoyed his performance. He doesn't sound like him. He's got a great voice. He sort of lowers it a bit. And because I also downloaded it as a PDF, and I noticed that he was saying wow a lot. Wow. That's just how he reacted to things. And he said wow 22 times in the book, which I don't know if that's high, but that feels like a lot of wows.
That's a lot of wows.
When you work out that's only 15 pages long, that's quite a lot of wows.
Yeah. But it's not as much as Owen Wilson's autobiography, which is actually called Wow.
Is that true? Wow.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get into it. So this week's episode is about Shane Keith Warne, aka the Sheikh of Tweak, or the King, or Hollywood, or the Sultan of Spin, or just plain Warnie.
Keith, what a name!
Keith, it's named after his old man. So Warne was born. Shane as well is great.
Shane's
I think the whole, they're all three. Tick, tick, tick for me.
Yeah.
Shane Keith Warne. Warnie was born in the Melbourne suburb of Upper Ferntree Gully on the 13th of September 1969.
Nice.
To parents Bridget and Keith Warne. I'm going to talk a little bit about Bridget just because I found it interesting. He talked a lot about his parents and grandparents on both sides in the book. And I started going down that path, and I'm like, I'll never get to his life if I... But anyway, so I'll talk... Here's a little bit about Bridget. She was born in Germany just after the war in 1946. And in his autobiography, Warne writes, her father was a Polish refugee who, when he was still a teenager, ended up in Germany on her grandparents' cabbage farm. His name was Joey, and he worked his nuts off on their property just outside Wesselburen. It was there he met Lottie. They were married and had their first child, my mum, Bridget. A couple of years back, Mum and Dad went to find Wesselburen, and would you believe they discovered that not only does it produce the most cabbages in Europe, it also has a cabbage museum, a cabbage festival, and every year somebody is crowned Miss Cabbage. Fact. I love the way the book's written. It's so good. It wasn't long before my grandfather Joey, my grandmother Lottie, Mum and her sister Regina had enough of living as cabbage farm refugees and did a runner all the way to Rome, where they hoped to find a ship to America. Instead, they had to go further south to Naples. They found a ship there, all right, but the wrong one. And they all ended up coming to Australia. Apparently, the ships to the States were full, so rather than wait a few months, they bought into Australia's land of opportunity. And none of us are complaining. Australia's been a wonderful place for our family, and I would have been a pretty ordinary baseballer.
Shane, I just don't think that's true.
No, he could have done it. He could have done it all. So I loved how the book was written. It sounds like it's just Warne having a chat.
Yeah, it's nice.
Which is probably because that's how it was written. He met up with ex-cricketer and journalist Mark Nicholas, who and they just chatted about his life for a few years, and then Mark Nicholas sort of just sorted it all into a book. So I don't want to get bogged down in their grandparents' stories, but if you are interested, it's worth a read or a listen. That book, I think it's good fun. It sort of jumps around a bit, but it is good fun. And I'm like, oh, wow. And he's like, and I just think that's great. And there's a lot of that. And he is great. What a guy. So great. It's all very positive.
It's very conversational.
Yeah. Some of the stories he tells about his grandparents are pretty wild. Like how his grandpa Joey, whose real name was Władysław Sznepiak, it's a Polish name.
Wow.
Which I don't think I've nailed. Got swindled into swapping his house in Geelong for a farm that was not equal in value. He just got talked into it and he moved there. But according to Warne, Dad reckons Joey was a difficult bloke with a bad temper. He used to get into fits of rage. For instance, he'd knock out a cow if it crapped on him while he was milking. He would be like, bang!
What? And then headbutt it or punch it?
Punch the cow and knock it out.
Knock out a cow.
Wow.
He would be like,
punch a cow pretty hard. You got to bang a cow pretty hard to knock it out.
Yeah.
that just feels like that's a story that's been exaggerated over the years.
Yeah.
But so he sounds like a bit of a psycho anyway, Joey.
Yeah.
But apparently he was a very good farmer. How do we know this? Well, according to Warne, we knew he was a good farmer because he was on the front of one of the country magazines in Apollo Bay for ploughing an unploughable field. Imagine that.
Wow.
Can't argue with that either. Unploughable field. Well, he ploughed
it.
Huh?
Joey ploughed it.
Doesn't look unploughable from where I'm standing. From the other end of a fucking plough. Bang!
What's that? I can't plough. Bang!
Bang, written all caps. Love that. Love that kind of storytelling.
How many times is the word bang written throughout this book? 22 bangs.
I'd control F that in the PDF, I reckon. We'll find that one out. Bang!
So Warne died recently. It was it's still unconfirmed, but a suspected heart attack at the age of 52. I got a bit of a chill when I read about how Joey died, as Warne writes. Out of nowhere, in the early 1980s, a massive heart attack killed him. He just caved in, and about 3 years later, my grandmother passed. Both of them in their mid to late 50s.
Oh, wow.
So this is clearly clearly it seems like it's a congenital thing. Even though, like, this is some people assuming that he was it was a coke binge or something.
I know.
But he's never done drugs in his life.
Yeah.
Which is, people seem to be surprised by that. He's like, he was away on a health kick.
Yeah.
If anything, he probably, they're saying that his juice diet probably was bad for his heart, maybe.
Right.
Like he was sort of, his diet, trying to be healthy, but he was doing it in maybe in a bit of a flaw.
He's saying drugs good, juice bad?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just giving you information that I vaguely know,
Dave,
and you draw your own conclusions.
Can I offer you some ecstasy?
Yes, but I will not be washing it down with pineapple juice.
I have pineapple juice in the fridge.
Oh, that's so good, actually. I will be washing it down,
Delicious.
please.
Here's a quick fun fact. Oh, Jess, you can tell me if it's a fun fact or not.
Also.
And I didn't know this. Warne was born with heterochromia, giving him a blue right eye and a green left eye. I never noticed that.
I
And
never
now,
noticed that.
since I read that, you notice it, but what a cool
I
thing.
wonder if it's a bit less noticeable because it's blue and green and they're a
Maybe,
bit more
yeah.
similar rather than
brown
like
and blue or something, yeah.
because you see that a little bit. I didn't realise that. That's cool.
I always thought that Bowie was saying, you probably talked about that when you did a report on him, but his was, it looks like that, but it was because one eye got injured.
Yeah.
So one of the pupils was always dilated or something. Anyway, let's get into Warnie's life. So when still young, Warnie moved with his family to Hampton in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne. And around these Bayside suburbs is where Warnie would call home for the majority of the rest of his life. In a playground accident when only 3.5 years old, Warnie suffered multiple broken bones. He wrote about it briefly in his autobiography, No Spin, saying, I quote from it a little bit in the report, "Some kid at nursery jumped off a mound and landed on my legs. Snap."
Ooh.
Bang! Was this all caps again?
Yeah. Snap, crackle, pop, bang. Bang! When I got out of hospital, I was plastered from neck to knee. It was a spiral fracture and nothing was supposed to move for months during the healing period. So I lay flat on a trolley and scooted around the house. Amazing. Russell Jackson, writing for the ABC, said Warne later became convinced the upper body strength he developed in these times went some way towards the magic he later produced with a cricket ball in hand.
So that's his Spider-Man moment.
Yeah.
Interesting.
A kid just jumping off a mound. Jeez, you just would have got him in the wrong spot.
Yeah. Ow.
Ouch.
Bang!
Warne was an okay cricketer in his teens. He was also good at tennis, at one point being ranked third in Victoria for his age group.
Wow.
So he was having to make decisions all the time about which one to focus on. So for a year he focused on tennis and that was when he got right up the rankings. But his true love was footy. According to Chris Payne, writing for the Sydney Morning Herald, Warne grew up with one goal on his mind, to become a star for his beloved St Kilda Football Club. That doesn't seem to be true because he grew up barracking for Hawthorn. But anyway, I found that there's so many things written about him that just don't seem to be fact-checked that much.
Right.
Which is really interesting. I don't know why that is, but yeah, there's all these little things that just aren't quite right. He did become a lifelong Saints fan, but that was after he was a Hawthorn fan as a kid. So after seeing him play for Mentone Boys Grammar, he was invited down to Moorabbin to play with the Saints under-19 side. And this is, once he got involved with the club, that's why he started. He even said, he was like, I started getting to know some of the other players. I'm like, I probably should go for them now. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
you are playing for them.
Yeah. I guess if I had a close friend, like a very close friend, who played in a footy team, I'd be like, all right, I'll go for it. I'll go for the team.
You know Trevor Barker, who's like a legendary Saints player. He was like the best and fairest for the Saints is named after him. So he was someone he had a poster on his wall of. He looked up to him growing up. And then when he was at Moorabbin, Barker was the one who gave him the nickname Hollywood, apparently. It'd be wild for Trevor Barker, who was like famously flamboyant, blonde guy, to be like, oh, here we go, Hollywood. What are you? You're calling me Hollywood?
Thank you, I guess. But have a look in the mirror, Trevor.
I also love the idea of Moorabbin's version of Hollywood, which is what they both sort of were. Which I like to think of me as well, being a bit of a slice of Hollywood in Moorabbin growing up.
Yeah.
He ended up at Mentone Grammar on a sports scholarship. This came about because he dominated against them in cricket and football, so they poached him. He played football, kicked 10 goals against them, and then he played cricket, took 6 wickets or something, and hit 60 runs. So they're like, You want to come
to our school.
Come here.
Yeah.
Come here.
Well, it would be better if you were on our team.
We've written down 2 ways to take you out. One is draft you. The other is kill you. So
what do you reckon?
What do you reckon, Warnie?
Hollywood?
He got into a bit of trouble at school. At one point, a teacher hit him across the face with a hard-covered textbook.
Oh,
It's a different time.
Yeah, so
They could really belt kids back then.
So yeah, this is sort of early to mid 80s, I guess.
That's too late for that to be happening.
Isn't that wild? Yeah.
My dad will tell stories about, getting hit in the knuckles at boarding school in the 60s. 80s. Too recent.
Yeah, it does. It's almost surprising. Although, I mean, it was still around in the 90s. I remember I never got hit, but my cousin, who was a couple of years above, told the teacher to fuck off. And
That's funny.
she smashed him with a ruler on the hand. But she was an old school. She had the hangover of it, so
Yeah.
she used to do it and would have been like, just instinct would have been, we were allowed to do this 10 years ago. Bang.
Fucking hell.
Did she get in trouble?
I don't think so. No. Probably was told not to do that. We don't really do that anymore. Imagine there would have been. Yeah, of course. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry. It's just slipped.
So he gets smashed in the face with this hard-covered textbook. In retaliation, according to Warne in his book, I got up and was looking for something to throw at him and saw a hardback duster. It hit him straight in the balls. There was a big white outline of the duster on his pants, and everyone in the class was laughing. Predictably, he sent me to the principal, Keith Jones, who was a decent bloke. I admitted that I was being a smart-ass in class, disruptive and disinterested, but I also said that the teacher couldn't belt me across the face and get away with it. Jones said that what I'd done was no good. You know the routine, Warne. Pull up your blazer, pull your pants down. I'm going to practice my golf swing on you. Then, not for the first time, he gave me 6 of the best. 6 smashings on the arse with a cane. A few of us used to get caned a bit by Jones, and in the end, we worked out a plan. Sometimes we'd wear 4 or 5 pairs of jocks because we figured that if we got sent out of class, we were going to get the cane. The extra padding was just in case we got hammered. That was. So that's
Fucked.
like,
That
it
is
happens so
crazy.
frequently that they
Yeah.
had to plan around
But
it.
his mum's like, Shane, why am I washing 48 pairs of jocks a week?
Yeah, she saw the welts one of these times, and he said this in the book. He said something like, she was like, look, you probably deserved it, but she went and she talked to her. She's like, I get it, he probably deserves hitting, but does it have to be that full on?
Yeah.
Like, can we take it down a notch? Maybe 3 hits.
Maybe hit my boy 3 times with a cane.
But interestingly, following that paragraph, he basically says, I know that might be a bit full on, but I reckon they've gone too far the other way. Now.
Oh, Shane.
Yeah, he has a lot of sort
sentence,
of
bud.
old school. You know, I got hit as a kid and I turned out all right. Yeah,
If
that
I
sort
was
of
his
idea.
mum, I'd be turning up at that school with a flamethrower.
Eye for an eye, motherfucker.
You know the drill. Drop your pants.
I'm going to practice my golf swing.
Isn't that just a spine-chilling phrase to hear from a teacher, an
Yeah.
adult teacher in a room privately with a kid, pull your pants down, mate? It's like,
Disgusting.
what the fuck?
Yeah, absolutely not okay. But yeah, it is crazy, isn't it, that like you're so conditioned to that being normal and a thing that just happens that even as an adult to go, I turned out all right. It's like you would have turned out all right regardless. You didn't turn out all right because you got smacked.
And there's possibly things that are lingering
Yeah.
because of this that aren't that healthy. I mean, who knows? But yeah, it's interesting because I know a lot of people who think that way. But I think that happens every generation. Every generation always thinks the next generation is getting it a bit too soft.
Yeah.
That might not have happened when the kids were going off to wars. And the
older ones were going, these fucking kids.
Yeah. But
They don't know what bloody days were
since
in
then,
their
every
lives.
generation has sort of been like, kids are getting it too soft.
I don't say that about the next ones under my generation. I feel sorry for them.
Yeah?
Yeah, just I had social media in school, but we didn't have smartphones.
That's true. That is the other side of it. You'll hear people going, I'm glad.
Oh, I'm so fucking
But
glad.
yeah, it's, to them, it's just normal. So they're not
Yeah,
feeling
true.
they need your pity at all. They're like, we're dealing with it fine. This is
They're
just
like, I'm on
reality.
Instagram
I
at
would have
school.
hated to have not had it.
Yeah,
I
true.
can't believe you dealt with life without it. But yeah, I do have that feeling sometimes as well. But that is just sign of you getting really old.
Yeah, no, that's been happening for a while.
It sounds like the Saints under-19s coach Daryl Nisbet had some full-on disciplinary methods at the time as well. Some mentioned by Warne were athletically brutal, like having to sprint and climb over a wall, and then another sprint, then sprint back to the wall, climb back over the wall, sprint back. And they'd have to do that once for every point they were beaten by. And in Aussie rules, a bad loss could be by 100 points or more. And he's like, they were doing it for hours and hours.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
at the end, they had to drop their pants and he practiced his golf swing.
Yeah, 6 of the best. Other methods of his were a little more unusual.
What?
For instance, according to Warne, one night when they rocked up to training, these are in Warne's words, we got to the club ready to go and Daryl said, "Righto guys, no training tonight. We're all going to run down to the Moorabbin pub and we're going to drink 6 pots, which is about 3 pints, and run straight back. We'll see which of you guys throws up, which of you guys is tough, and which of you guys can handle it.
That's masculinity. All right, young teenagers, let's run to the pub, drink, sink a lot of piss, and whoever throws up is weak. That's ridiculous.
It's so weird.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No. In my fittest, at my absolute prime, I would throw up. Of course I fucking would. You're also drinking it really fast.
That just sounds like you're not tough.
You're
not tough enough.
Hang on.
You're not gonna make
actually,
it.
you might be right. That's probably it. Yeah.
But then the coach is like, I just don't know why we keep losing by 100 points. I just don't know.
It was weird that the Saints had an awful decade in the 80s. I think we won. Yeah, I think I was saying it recently. We won like 5 or 6 wooden spoons.
Yeah.
So anyway, Warne goes on. So we ran about 1.5 k's to the pub,
That's not
drank
too
the
bad.
beers, and as fast as we could, and then sprinted back. That was our session. Then Daryl said, "Righto, boys, come back tomorrow with a better attitude." He
Come back tomorrow hungover.
So wait, what?
What bad attitude?
I love the idea that he's like, "Righto, boys, lesson learned, I hope." Wait, what?
What lesson?
What was the lesson?
We
What happened?
turned up and you said, run to the pub. What? Who's paying for these beers?
Don't make me repeat
Do I have
myself.
to run with my wallet?
Warne continues, in 1988, I trained with the seniors a couple of times a week for 3 months. It was fantastic, training alongside players who've become greats of the game. Trevor Barker, Nicky Winmar and Tony Lockett, who in my opinion was the best player to ever play the game. Plugger, who we did a bonus episode, Patreon episode a while back on. People would, if want to know, just...
They'd remember that one.
they'd remember.
They'd
Live in
bloody-
Manchester.
Yeah.
The Manchester crowd understood what a legend I was talking about. I've never
Hey.
seen so many people look at me so confused. And I've seen a lot of people look at me confused.
That night we also spoke about The Sims
Yeah, I was going to say, I talked about The Sims that night.
And Danny Deckchair.
and Lawn Chair Larry.
Okay, lawn chair Larry.
Close enough.
Close enough. Warne says finally, I finished the year as leading goal kicker in the under-19s. It was an amazing time and my footy dreams were shaping up pretty well. So he was full forward, almost like an understudy to Plugger, and he was doing really well, leading goal kicker.
I mean, you look like you're an assured player if you're the leading goal
Yeah,
kicker.
you're doing
right?
In the
Wow.
under-9, so they don't have the under-19s anymore, but I think what it was basically like the thirds. It's sort of like a 3-tiered system. The young recruits play in the under-19s and they go up to the reserves, and then from the reserves up to the first. So after kicking 7 goals one week, which is a big bag,
Wow.
he was called up to the reserves team alongside future St Kilda legend and games record holder Robert Harvey. He got the call from the coach. He was crook that week in bed with some sort of a flu or something. And
COVID.
It could have been early COVID. He was patient zero. So
I'm going to do that every time.
the
Sick, the COVID.
Oh, yeah. The
he
COVID.
the way he tells
she
it.
came down with the Spanish flu. COVID.
Oh,
Was it COVID?
It's
Was
a
it?
weird word for COVID.
Yeah.
was that COVID one? So then apparently the way he remembers it, he was about to call the coach like, I can't play for the 19s this week, but as he was going to, he got the call and said, we're bringing you up to the reserves this week to play with the adults,
boys.
the big
Oh,
boys.
he'd be like, fuck.
And he was like, okay, great, it was his big chance.
Oh, no.
But this is from his book. He didn't have a great game, saying, the truth is that I wasn't good enough. Not a mile off, but in the end, not good enough. That's hard to take. It went deep, like my soul had been ripped out. I was in love with the AFL, but the game was not in love with me.
Oh, Warnie.
Oh, Shane.
So he played on Mill Hanna, and Mill Hanna just tore him apart. Mill Hanna ended up being, like a Carlton great. In early 1989, he received a letter from the club saying his services were no longer required.
Oh,
I was the
brutal.
leading goal kicker for under 19.
Yeah, isn't it? It's a wild draw. He was feeling like everything was going to plan.
Imagine if that letter took a few days to arrive and you were turning up at training and they were like, oh, he hasn't got the letter yet.
Yeah,
Right.
He just pretended.
Okay.
Why didn't we just give it to him at training? That was so stupid.
Yeah, but then he gets the letter and he's like, I drank 6 pots and I didn't vomit once. This idiot over here vomited 4 times. Get rid of him.
We'll keep that in mind. They were getting him to scull beers when I read this next thing. According to Jackson, club honchos thought he was too fat and slow. The club cut him loose and the disappointment stung. So they cut him for being too fat. At training, they were making him scull beers. Anyway, Jackson
You're
goes
fat
on.
and slow because you're full of beer. It's just sloshing around in your guts. Slosh, 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 slosh.
Till his last days, Warne admitted he would rather have been a premiership-winning centre-half forward than a spin wizard. But it turned out the chunky legs and broad chest that weighed him down on a football field were well suited to the short bursts of strength and velocity required of a good spinner. Yeah, it's interesting, right? He made it like the absolute pinnacle of a world game cricket, or, more of a world game than Australian rules football anyway. But he always would have preferred to play footy.
Wow, I didn't know that.
At the age of 19, Warne was playing for the first 11 side for St Kilda Cricket Club. So first there's 11 players in a cricket team. This is for the Americans.
I gun to my head couldn't have told you how many cricket.
12th man is
Okay.
that's sort of, the spare guy brings on the drinks.
Right.
So
there's 11
first
on
11,
the field.
Yeah.
And you can remember that because I was the 13th man,
Of course.
which is a made-up position because they felt sorry for me at my high school.
That's fair enough. So there's 22 people on... Is it 11 on each team?
Yeah.
So 22 on a field.
No, only 2 batting at a time.
Oh,
mate.
yeah, of course.
Don't
Yeah,
let
but
me-
the others are out there for support.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So is he playing, is it because footy's over he's gone to cricket, or he's doing both the whole
He was
time?
always doing both. He was playing both, and he was handy at cricket, but it just wasn't a passion. He didn't really get it. He wasn't fanatical
Right.
about it at all. He would play
Amazing.
in the backyard. He said he would, he'd pretend to be Australian cricketers a bit in the backyard playing with his brother and stuff, but
Bowl a golf ball up against the...
footy was the passion. Yeah. So St Kilda Cricket Club is a district cricket club in Victoria, so basically one level below playing for the state.
Mm-hmm.
and that's one level below playing nationally.
Yes,
Just-
that's right. And nationally is the highest.
That's
you
one
can-
level below playing in space.
Yeah. Playing for Earth.
Honestly.
The Earth 11.
Warnie would have been good enough to play for Earth.
I
11.
would have
Yeah, he
played
would
for
have played for
Earth.
Earth,
Don't
no
you
doubt
worry
about
about that. Mate, Warnie would have bowled for Earth.
Geez, imagine what he could have done in like zero gravity somewhere.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Oh, the drift he would have got in space. So around this time, he went to England for a year. It seems like a bit of a whim. One of his mates was going over there, and like a lot of Aussie cricketers do, spent a summer over
A
in
lot
the
of
English
Aussies.
summer. Yeah, that's
Just
true.
go
Just
over.
not just cricketers,
Yeah,
just in general.
London, filled with Aussies.
This is back to his book saying, I joined up with the Imperial Club in Bristol. I was 19 years old and began to hang out with a bunch of great guys who loved a beer and taught me how to drink a pint. We're talking truckloads of them. I was 79 kilograms on the scales when I left Oz, and I came back 99 kilos. I learned to drink, play cricket, and, well, a few other things about life too. Not sure what he means by that, but
Oh,
anyway.
He fucked
I
over
think
there.
he's talking about losing the
He
virginity.
lost his virginity.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And he did because he's real cool about it.
Yeah,
he just says a
exactly.
few other things. Wink.
And see, that's the thing. Like, that's how
Whereas
we...
Dave would say,
Exactly. This is how we know Dave
yeah,
definitely has it, because he, like...
off the pod, he's always saying
He's like,
things
oh,
like,
I've done it.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
I've done a little...
Oh, yeah, come
no, I have. Shut up.
Oh,
and stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Warnie's being, like, cool and chill about
Yeah,
it, and
like,
that's how you know he's
learn a few
definitely
other
done
things
it.
about life.
It's hard to imagine Warne ever being a virgin.
True. But you would hope at some point he was.
Warnie goes on. A season in England introduces you to the game in a really interesting way. There's a lot of cricket, like 3, 4, sometimes even 5 games a week, which allows you to bowl so many overs in such different conditions and circumstances. You learn about yourself and your game. It's a terrific experience.
Is he still talking about cricket?
Still talking about cricket.
Okay. 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. It was great.
Too much.
That's
learn
a lot of cricket.
You learn a lot about
That's
yourself.
too much cricket.
I
And
was-
I'm talking about both types of cricket.
Both have
much.
11 on the field.
But only 2 batting.
I was the 13th man watching.
Bringing out the drinks.
I'm not sure what we're talking about.
I was there for 6 months and played 70 or 80 games. In Australia, it would take you 4 or 5 years to play that many games. So I fast-tracked my learning and, as well as unravelling how to drink 10 pints, I got to understand my craft a little more.
Craft beer.
He's an early craft beer.
But yeah, you think about like flying hours, the amount of time you spend practicing something.
Yeah, 10,000 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So if he's playing a lot of cricket, you are going to get really good really quick.
Yeah, well, he put it in those exact terms. He talked about his 10,000 hours and how playing over there helped him get there a lot quicker than he would have otherwise.
Yeah. How interesting, just to be able to, like, 6 months. What was the... it would take you a few years.
He reckons, it would have taken 4 or 5 years for the same amount of games.
How crazy is that?
Which is like half a career.
Yeah, exactly.
For a lot of players.
Yeah.
Something else that's really interesting is that leg spin at this time was basically... It was a dying art. It just didn't really exist in world cricket anymore.
It's obviously something we all understand and know what it is.
Well, you know, it's slower bowling where the ball is made to turn.
Yep.
So rather than just straight out pace, which was the big thing in world, you know, and still always will be, but it was the only thing back then. Apparently, you know, the West Indies and before that, Lilly and Thompson in Australia. Fast bowling was king, and then so he was coming in at quite an interesting time. Basically, people were like, there won't be leg spinners in. There were hardly any around, even.
Interesting.
So back in Australia, he went on to play again with St Kilda Cricket Club, where he was spotted and invited to the Australian Institute of Sport's Cricket Academy under coach Jack Potter. According to Jackson, in April 1990, Warne arrived in typical style at the academy. Colleagues there at the academy, Justin Langer and Damien Martin, future Australian players, spotted him taking down a family-sized pizza and a can of VB. Warne's eventual expulsion seems inevitable in hindsight. He would always chafe at the system, but Potter had time enough to teach him his lethal flipper, a key addition to the bag of tricks that eventually shook the cricket world. The flipper is kind of his iconic ball. That's his signature ball. It's the one that sort of, he clicks his fingers almost, and it just skids on fast and low.
Yeah, wow.
I think that's hopefully... Last time I tried to explain cricket, cricket people came at me and said, you said all that stuff wrong. I'm halfway between... you, Jess, and hardcore cricket fans. Okay. I've watched a lot of it.
You're a cricket fan.
I'm a casual cricket fan.
Yeah. So if you said something wrong and you are a hardcore cricket fan listening,
please
shut up.
Correct. Okay.
Shut up.
Please correct me.
You shut up.
But anyway, the flipper, that was his iconic ball.
It was also the iconic move in the Australian film Cracker Jack.
Oh, yeah, right.
Lawn bowls.
Which is exactly that would have been... Yeah, and was it called the flipper?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
So that would have definitely been a reference to Warne.
He was trying to spin a lawn bowl.
There you go.
Very funny. Mick Malloy. What a film.
Good stuff.
Wayne Hope, probably.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, I should watch that again. So Jackson said there that Warne was expelled, but in his book he says he quit.
Okay.
It's like, well, there's all these things that are just commonly reported differently to how he tells it. And he tells it in a lot more detail, so I kind of take his word for it a bit.
Yeah, okay.
The academy group were all up in Darwin on a training camp, staying at a hotel when Warne was sent home for mooning other guests from the hotel pool.
He's writing that.
Yeah.
He's saying I was mooning people.
He didn't say
in the
moon,
pool.
he said brown eyes. Look, I did a few brown eyes.
Was he? So he was in the pool, or people?
He
were
was in the pool, and
okay.
he ended up partying with some girls up the top. But he opened that conversation with a brown eye, I believe, from the pool.
That's beautiful.
I mean, obviously it worked.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to have a good opener, but that's.
So he's got a brown eye and a blue and a green eye. He's got them all.
He's got them all.
Ladies, what do you want? I got them all.
That's the real hat trick. So the next day, he was called in by the academy management. They're like, "What are you doing? You can't do that. We've had complaints." So they go, "We're sending you home," and he's like, "Okay." He's like, "Are you going to take me to the airport?" And they said, "No, you're catching the bus back to Adelaide."
Bus from Darwin to Adelaide,
which took over 40 hours. And it was one of those, like a tourist bus that's stopping in every gift shop town.
I mean, but is there any mode of transport that lends itself better to brown eyeing people? The bus.
That's a good point.
Doing 40 hours worth.
But what are you brown eyeing out there? Camels? Not a lot of traffic out there, Dave.
No.
That's straight through the centre of Australia.
That's right.
That's just desert.
Which I mean, it's
it'd be incredible.
Loved it, but not in
Not
that
on a
way.
fucking
Not on a
tourist
bus where
bus.
it's just going straight there, no stops and no.
Oh.
So there was no money in cricket back then, so he was broke. He didn't have any money to be stopping along the way or anything. So he gets back, and the academy was based in Adelaide. They'd go to this place. Their accommodation wasn't on site like I think it would be now. The accommodation was above a pub. So that's where these young 20-year-old guys, they just group together. They're having breakfast down the pub with a beer and
Yeah.
All our young guys have drinking problems, and we just don't know why.
Can't figure it out.
So he gets back there now by himself, and he's like, I don't know what he was sort of getting up, playing some pool, he said, and he's like, and he just quit. He ended up, he's like, this isn't for me. It's not working out, and he quit. Yeah. So I think as I was writing this report at this point, I've written a note. Some of this is going to sound like gibberish to some people, brackets Americans. I'm going to try and avoid using too much lingo on inside baseball stuff. But
I don't understand the baseball
For
bit, though.
Australian people, baseball is kind of like American cricket.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
They love it over there, don't they? They love their American cricket.
Oh,
They hold the bat funny, don't they?
What are they doing?
it's
in the air.
Australia and America's pastime. So around this time, Warne hooked up with Terry Jenner, who would go on to become his mentor. He was a guy who did a bit of spin bowling for Australia on and off. I think maybe in the 70s. According to Jackson, Jenner was a former test leg spinner who'd fallen on hard times, serving 18 months in jail for embezzlement. It didn't bother Warne, who sensed a kindred spirit. Jenner became his spin whisperer, and their fortunes rose in tandem. Warne was selected to play for Victoria in the 1990/91 Sheffield Shield season, the state cricket season, one level below playing for Australia. He took only one wicket on debut, but as there weren't many young Australian spin bowlers at the time, because it was a dying art, he was selected for the Australian B team's tour of Zimbabwe. In his book, he's like, Zimbabwe, I love Zimbabwe, great country. At the time, their president, Mugabe, he was ruining it, but he's gone now and it's a lot better. I love how he just summed it up so
eloquently.
So eloquently brief. I loved it.
That guy, he was no good, I reckon.
Yeah.
He was a bit crook.
He's
but
gone.
he's gone and
They're
it's
on the
lovely.
He's like, it's a great country, but just there's a real bozo in charge. In 1992, Warne would become a shock inclusion for the Australian team against India in Sydney in January of 1992 after playing only 7 first-class games.
Wow.
So playing for Victoria a handful of times, not really setting the world on fire, but there just weren't many options around. Sydney's a spinner's wicket, traditionally. Something, if you don't know cricket, different grounds sort of have different... how would you describe it? Different
conditions for bowling.
Yeah, so back in the day, I think the Australian wickets have sort of come a bit more middle ground, all of them. But Perth used to be fast and bouncy. Sydney Spun?
Spun?
So Shane Warne is a famous spanner.
Span.
He span with the best of them.
I'm losing my mind.
No span.
Span. Oh no, we've got so long to go.
And also some wickets like famously deteriorate over because they play over 5 days.
That's right.
So you want to bat first because by the 5th day there's all these cracks in the pitch that if the ball hits it, it bounces all over the place, and the batters are like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you get less consistent bounce, and then there's all the footmarks from the days of bowling and batting at each end of the pitch. So spinners have more areas to aim for to get extra grip and turn on the ball, so it just becomes harder to bat usually. Although the recent series in Pakistan, at least the early games, were very different from that. It was just, they were like roads. It was just batting wickets and led to boring draws. Anyway, pick up a game, Pakistan.
Their first international tour in decades.
Yeah, and they've just made boring wickets. Strange, but hey, sorry about that. I didn't mean to get political.
I hate it when you get political.
The selection was even a shock to Warne. So he gets called up to play for Australia.
Is he about to call his coach and call in sick for the Victorian game? Actually, Warnie, we need you on the plane because you're playing for the country.
Oh, great. Great, perfect.
Great.
Gonna need some Sudafed.
At
I think I've
the
got COVID.
at the prior match in Melbourne at the MCG, Warne was there as a spectator, and he bumped into the Australian team manager Ian McDonald. Warne had 3 pies under his right arm and a beer under his left when McDonald said, "Go easy, mate. You might be playing in Sydney." And Warne thought he was just joking, but he wasn't. And he found out later, he's like, "Oh, bloody hell." So that's how Warne tells that story.
3 pies and a beer.
And he's like, I thought he was joking, so I ate those 3 pies.
Yeah, good one.
And I went back for some chippies.
On debut, Warne took the big wicket of opening batsman Ravi Shastri, but not before Shastri had smashed a double century. He got, plundered all over the park. And he finished his first match with the unimpressive figures of 1 for 151.
So that means 1 wicket for 151 runs.
That's right. Yeah, he took out 1 batsman, but they scored 150 runs against his bowling directly. Despite the inglorious debut, Warne was finding a passion for cricket, which is wild, as he was already playing at the highest level.
And he's finding a
like,
passion.
I'm finding a passion.
Do you know what? This is all right. This is all right.
It's another thing that's slightly contradictory in something he said, because he clearly had a kind of a blessed rise to the top. And at one point he says that now players are expecting to just get to the top real quick. You used to have to earn your stripes, he's saying. He's not realising in his own story. He got to the top so quickly.
Yeah.
Without even really wanting to be there.
Yeah.
It
But I
seems-
guess he's talking about younger players who are maybe complaining about having to wait. But still,
Yeah.
you can't all expect to just play 7 state games and go to the top level. Looking for guidance, Warne drove to Adelaide to visit his new mate Terry Jenner on a whim. He picked up a slab of beer on the way, as well as a speeding fine. When he arrived, Warne said to Jenner, "I want to learn the passion." Warne said to Jenner, when there's a full stop, you normally stop and restart, but I just thought I'd plough through then. He said, "I want to learn. The passion is bubbling, and I'll do whatever it takes."
I want to learn the passion is bubbling.
Warnie, slow down.
And according to Warne in his book, he says, "TJ gave it to me. He just ripped into me like you wouldn't believe. What the hell," he said. "You're overweight. Fat, actually. You've got no discipline and you think you're better than you are. You don't deserve to play for Australia. Some guys used to dominate state cricket and never got picked. Others, me for one, would get a game here and there and then get binned. You've got some amazing talent, but I question your commitment. You got a game for Australia because there's no one else out there right now. You're a lucky boy, all right, but you're not that good. Not yet anyway, although you could be. So let's get serious. Put the beers back in the car, all 24 of them, and tomorrow take them back to the bottle shop. While you're with me, there's no beers. Actually, put them in the fridge for another time." It's like, that's storytelling. I love that.
That is... Okay, so when my brother was 18 and he got his motorbike license and came home with a motorbike, it was that same sort of tone from Dad of, "You are not riding a motorbike. They are incredibly dangerous. I am very disappointed in you. Can I have a go, please?" And then Dad got a motorbike and they'd go riding together.
Really?
Yeah. But yeah, it was that same sort of tone of, "No, I am very upset at you. Give us a go."
Yeah, it's sort of midway going, "Actually, sounds a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Can I come
Actually,
along?"
I'm being a hypocrite. I had one when I was your age.
So Warne expected to visit Jenner just for a couple of days, but it turned into 6 weeks and an intense training course where Warne got back into shape and continued his education in the art of leg spin bowling. In the biopic, this will be a training montage.
Yeah,
I
big
reckon.
time. With Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
Or something else inspiring.
He kept saying he got up and he'd go for a run and he didn't even have a ciggy before he went.
Didn't even have a ciggy before he went for a run.
No darts.
You're
He
kidding.
said for the first time he got off the couch, didn't have a dart before he went for a run.
Wow.
And he kept that up. During that 6-week period, he went to Merv Hughes' wedding. He went sober. Like, he took it real serious.
That's great.
But it's seeming like slight misconception about him. He would drink a lot sometimes, but he said he'd go for weeks without drinking through his life. It's not like a thing he had to have.
Yeah.
But when he went out, he would often have quite a few.
He would binge drink.
He'd binge drink, yes.
Yeah, he'd go out and drink 29 beers.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, maybe. Although something he said later on, he would drink his drink of choice out at pubs and stuff would be vodka Red Bulls.
Ooh.
I'm like, that can't be your session beer.
No.
Your session drink can't be Red Bull. I've made that mistake once. I can't believe he stuck with it. He obviously never went too far, but shit. Warne remained in the national squad and had a few decent matches through the rest of 1992, including taking 7 wickets against the West Indies at the MCG. But it wasn't until the 1993 Ashes series in England when Warne truly arrived on the international stage, most famously with the first delivery of the series, now known simply as the Gadding Ball, aka the Ball of the Century. You familiar with this one, Bob? Have you know it?
Yeah, would you have seen it over the last couple of months as tributes for Warne?
Probably.
Maybe do you want to watch it quickly? I'm curious to see if it's to me. I mean, it just is. It's a thing of beauty.
And so this is his first ball of the Ashes. And for people at home, the Ashes is like the series that England plays against Australia, and there's a lot of rivalry.
So it drifts left to right in the air.
Wow.
Pitches outside leg stump and then spins back and takes the off stump.
And
Look at his face.
Wow.
So that went on to be known as the Ball of the Century, which Warne calls a bit of a fluke. He's like, normally it takes a bit of time to warm up and get into it, and it just came out perfect, and it was, just a ridiculous ball. I'll post that video to the social medias.
Awesome.
According to Jackson, the funny thing about what followed, this is the English tour, was that England didn't even plan for Warne. He was held back from the one-day international preliminary matches and instructed by his captain, Alan Border, not to deploy his full arsenal in tour games. So Border apparently took him aside. So they play a lot of these games leading up against universities and county sides and stuff. And Border said to him, no matter what, only bowl leg breaks. Don't bowl your flipper, don't bowl your wrong-uns, don't show them your tricks.
Yeah. Because then they can sort of prepare to defend that or to, how to deal with that.
Exactly, yeah.
Or if he's taking 9 wickets a match, they'll start to notice him a bit more.
That's right, and be like assuming he was definitely going to play. Because as it was, England didn't even think he was going to be playing. They're like, he hasn't been taking many wickets. No one really, there's no real spin bowlers.
You keep him in your back pocket until you really need something.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and blows them away.
But
instead he was just too good straight away.
Yeah, amazingly just on the very first balls. So Jackson goes on. Instead, he used his first delivery to baffle his opponent, tilt the momentum of the series irreversibly in favour of Australia, and cause a mini revolution in the game. Gadding has absolutely no idea what has happened to it, said commentator Richie Benno, and still doesn't know as he was walking off the ground. I've watched the ball a bunch of times recently. It's so good to watch. Just the way it's like how it moved in multiple ways. It's just freaky.
It's amazing.
The caption to a photo I saw yesterday from moments after the ball, photo of Gadding says, Mike Gadding looks despondently at his stumps. The photo is just him going like, I don't know what happened.
It was all so fast.
I came out here to bat. I don't know what the fuck
and
was
it must
that?
take ages to put all those pads on and stuff, hey? It must be so annoying. You get out there and you're like, get fucked. Now I got to take it all off. Takes ages.
What a waste of time.
Give us a hand, would you? It's weird. It's in a weird spot. It's hard to do.
Can't get out on first ball.
Oh my God.
This is a classic backyard rule.
Yeah.
Especially from the ultra competitive uncle. Can't get out first ball.
The best one, can't get out first ball definitely came up. One time my dad made a fatal error, and it was because on my mum's side of the family, the grandkids, there's 10 boys and 2 girls. There's only 2 of us. And so I was playing cricket with all the boys and Dad was batting. I caught Dad out and he said, you can't get caught out by a girl.
What?
And my mum is one of like 7. Mum's one of 7. So there's all of these women who just turned and stared at him. And I'm sitting there like, what is that even? Fuck? And he goes, I mean, you can't get caught out by your daughter. First bat. We were like, you're out.
He's just stretching for...
Yeah. He's like, I'm stuffed up. I have.
Can't get caught by a Libran or whatever your stuff sign is.
I was like, Dad, you're out. Nothing about his like 8-year-old catching it.
Yeah.
None of that.
That's good parenting, I
It's
reckon.
good.
I reckon
It's
that's the
good.
kind of thing that would make you feel like your contribution was worthwhile
Yeah.
and you should step up.
It was good that I was playing. He probably remembers that story quite differently. Sorry, Dad.
Luckily, it's on video and we'll upload it to YouTube. Jackson continues, from that moment, Shane Warne was a superstar of world cricket.
Wow.
When that perfect leg break fizzed past Gadding and took the bails, the dying art of leg spin became the most captivating spectacle in the game, or more accurately, Warne did. There was no sight in sport like the Shane Warne show. The sense of anticipation as he removed his cap, adjusted his shirt sleeve and shaped a bowl. The change in the game's mood, the adjustment of the batsman's body language, the whirring of the ball as it arced through the air, the ridiculous angles of the spin he extracted on pitches around the world. How it must have delighted Benno, a past master of the craft. His commentary of Warne's most famous moment held true thereafter. Batsmen simply didn't know what had happened to them. That's pretty wild sort of couple of paragraphs.
Yeah, really well written.
But he is true. Like as a kid, when he came into bowl, you just got excited.
Yeah.
And yeah, just you knew something was about to happen.
Those players don't come along all that often in all sports.
Yeah.
So when somebody's like really exciting to watch, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Imagine being that person.
Yeah, it would be hard to deal with, I think.
Totally, yes.
Especially because it's come out of nowhere for him.
Yeah.
His rise
He's
happened
still really
quick.
young.
Yeah, he's in his early 20s, and he was saying he was all of a sudden, in England, he couldn't go anywhere without being hounded. He's like, everywhere I went, it felt like everything had changed
Wow.
overnight. So, yeah, it was a lot to deal with, which he said himself that he had a kind of sheltered childhood. He's like, I hardly went to any parties.
Yeah.
And, we just lived at home and played sport. But, yeah, just all of a sudden he's a superstar on both sides of the world.
Crazy.
All two sides of the
All
world.
two sides.
Both
Wow.
England and Australia.
Yeah, the whole world.
And, I mean, massive in India. And, people loved watching him play. Warne went on to take the most wickets in that Ashes series with 34, 3 more than fellow Victorian Big Murph Hughes, who I interviewed on The Beer Pioneer, if people want to check that out.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And once we had to ask him to move his car.
To Murphy's car. We were real nervous. Can you move your car,
Excuse
mister?
me, Merv. Could you move your car, Merv?
Yeah, because he was at the old Stupid Old Studios recording some cricket commentary.
That's right.
That was so fun that
And we're
day.
all like, Merv fucking Hughes is here.
What a guy. Yes. So anyway, Warne's position in the Australian team was well and truly locked in at this stage. I'm not going to... Because he played for, nearly 2 decades at the top level. So I'm not going to go into too much. I'm going to summarise it a bit or use Jackson's summary here. I feel like in the Bradman episode I might have talked too much about his cricket stuff, maybe.
I mean, he was a very famous cricketer.
Yeah, so it's probably something you would have
That's
to
fine.
mention.
As is Shane Warne, yeah.
So this is from Jackson's article. His playing career can be split into 4 phases. The first took place between 1993 and 1998 when he burst onto the scene, took all before him and claimed his first 300 test wickets. The second Australian to do so after his hero, Dennis Lillee. It was the time of effortlessly wrecking English fortunes, toying with Darryl Cullinan and making even the world's best batsman look foolish. Darryl Cullinan, who's like maybe his most famous bunny, like it was a real psychological thing where he just got him out cheaply every time. He was one of the top South African batsmen, but yeah, it was almost like a running joke.
Wow.
Which obviously got into Cullinan's head and he just didn't deal with it. Jackson goes on, the main problem in that phase was physical. So often was Warne called up to save Australia's day, putting extraordinary strains on his body. He began suffering a host of painful injuries that would eventually threaten his career. The second phase might be subtitled Scandal and Disgrace. Between 1998 and 2004, Warne was still a match winner, but he could also be a one-man disaster zone. In that period, infidelity cost Warne his marriage and injuries scrapped entire summers. This period involved controversies like John the Bookie and a 1-year drug ban, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. The third phase came when he returned from his drug ban in 2004. At 35, in elite cricket terms, he was on borrowed time. Remarkably, between then and his fairy tale retirement after the 2006-7 Ashes, Warne took hundreds of wickets,
Wow.
moving past the 500, 600 and 700 test wicket milestones. He was the first player to ever hit 600 and 700 wickets.
Wow.
It redeemed him, and fans soaked up one of the great late career sprees. A shining example of that twilight brilliance came in the generation-defining 2005 Ashes, which were lost by Australia. Given his advancing age and the chaos of his private life at that point, Warne's 40 wickets at 19, that means he took 40 wickets at an average of 19 runs per wicket, remains an astonishing feat. Against England, he always rose to the occasion. But it was not a relationship of antagonism. He was a star there too, for Australia and Hampshire. Warne often talked of his script writer, a cliche to be sure. In his book, he talks a bit about, like, I kind of feel like my life's like the Truman Show. But also, so it's a cliche, but also a measure of his wonderment that his life could be so often veering away from one disaster over to glory. His final milestone was a case in point. His 700th wicket came 5 days after he announced his retirement, falling in front of his adoring home crowd in Melbourne. The atmosphere was overwhelming. He talks about that day at the start of his book. It's how I read it, he got like 2 hours sleep the night before, went and did a charity breakfast, and then went to the game.
Oh my God.
Oh, I don't know how you do that.
No.
I don't know how you do that.
Adrenaline, I guess.
I went to that test match. I went by myself. I don't think I've ever gone to... I've gone to the footy occasion by myself, but cricket, it's a long day just to sit up in the stand. But I'm like, no one was around to go with. I definitely have friends. And
They're all in Canada.
but I'm like, it's Warnie's last Melbourne test match. I've got to go. And I'm glad I did. But yeah, it was kind of surreal.
And were you there the day he got the 700th wicket?
No, I wasn't there that day, but I think I was there the day he bowled. I'd have to. Isn't that funny that it's a kind of a blurry memory now? I mean, it was 16 years ago, but I wasn't there on the first day, which is when he took it. I think I was there later in the test match. I think I was there on the last day.
Yeah, okay.
Which wasn't the fifth day. I think it ended early. I have to double check that though. Isn't that funny?
Nah.
So he was the first cricketer. I think it's just an aging thing, but geez, little memories that I used to be able to recount every gig I'd seen and when and where and all that sort of stuff. And now I'm like, yeah, I've seen them luckily things like set lists are there.
Yeah, true.
I can look it up and be like, yes, it was at that one at that venue.
Yeah.
And there's the set list. So cool.
But I mean, Matt, you are 362
I'm
years
an
old.
old
right.
man.
You're like, when was
Nobody's expecting you to remember everything.
the first time I heard bark? When was that?
When was
My little
that?
grey cells are real tiny now.
Yeah.
They're really little.
So he was as I said, the first cricketer to reach the 700 number, and it's only been surpassed by Sri Lankan legend Muttiah Muralitharan, who even got to 800.
Whoa, that's incredible.
Yeah, he got to 800 flat.
Wow.
And retired.
Well,
so they had a
that's
real
good.
battle between the two of them. Quite different bowlers. One off spin, one leg spin.
One chucking, one not.
Yeah, well, Murali.
I'm just saying that to be controversial. I don't actually know.
I mean, he did. They basically, I think they changed the rules for him about how he had a bent arm action, which would have been against the rules, and it got slightly changed. And he worked on it and stuff. I don't think it's not controversial anymore, but at the time,
very
a lot of
controversial,
people were like, "Yeah, that's not bowling, that's throwing."
Okay.
And he even got called in test matches for chucking a few times. It was all very controversial at the time, but now he's just known as a bona fide legend of the game.
Wow.
Obviously, he's taken more wickets than anyone in Test cricket.
Wow,
And
that's
in
cool.
interviews seems like a cool dude as well.
Yeah, he did, and him and Warne were good mates.
That's nice.
When the tsunami hit Sri Lanka, Warne called him up and was like, "What can I do to help?" And he flew over at the next opportunity with it, and he sorted out a bunch of bats and stuff to take with him, like heaps and heaps of stuff to hand out to the kids there, and him and Morley did, and apparently
That's nice.
like it, just like they were going through hell, and it's just a funny little here's a cricket. I know you lost your house, but here's a cricket bat.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, food would have been good, or
I think there might have been some of that as well, but
yeah. I mean, it's easy to criticize, but like he went and did something.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he turned up.
Yep. So back to Jackson's article. The final phase of his cricketing career was between his retirement and 2013. that was his globe-trotting stint as a T20 specialist. So T20 is a relatively new format of the game where each team plays 20 overs, trying to make it quicker for the internet generation, you know. Is probably how they pitched it.
Yeah. Look, they don't have the attention span they used to. They're always on the TikToks and the Instagrams.
So he played for the Rajasthan Royals in the Indian Premier League and the Melbourne Stars in the Australian Big Bash. And, he took the Royals to the inaugural premiership, and like an inexperienced team, and he captained them and led them to the first IPL championship. Jackson says, if nothing else, it meant his career had spanned 3 decades, allowing another generation to say they'd seen a little of Warne's magic in the flesh. For all of this, numerous honours flowed. He was one of Wisden's 5 cricketers of the century, alongside Don Bradman, who we've talked about in a previous episode, as well as Englishman Jack Hobbs and West Indian legends Garfield Sobers and Viv Richards. And he was entered into the International Cricket Council's Hall of Fame. On honour boards around the cricket world, his name appears in gold leaf, which means that you get your name on the board if you take 5 wickets or score a century or whatever. But just as Warne was never one for stuffy traditions, his appeal to fans transcended statistics and trophies. The statistics don't go close to telling the story of the career, but they remain compelling. 708 test wickets at 25.71, that's the average, we're talking about how many runs per wicket. 293 at the same cost in one-day internationals, and a similar average in first class, List A and T20 ranks. It's really interesting. Yeah, his average in all formats was around 25, interestingly. Wherever Warne went, he took wickets. When a game was on the line, he was the man his captain looked to. Some other stats include his 195 Ashes wickets, the most by any player.
Wow.
He also has the all-time record for most test wickets in a calendar year when he took 96 in 2005. He also played a pivotal role in Australia's 1999 World Cup tilt. He took the equal most wickets for the tournament, and when the competition was on the line, he produced 2 player of the match performances in the semi-final and final, helping Australia win the tournament. You know what a hat-trick is, Bopper?
Yes, 3.
3 wickets in a row. 3 wickets in 3 consecutive deliveries.
Nailed that.
Kind of like a triptych of wickets, if you will.
Ooh.
In the history of Test cricket, there have only been 46 hat-tricks, so they're pretty rare. Warne got his hat-trick at the Melbourne Cricket Ground in 1994. The 3rd wicket fell when Booney took an absolute screamer, diving to his right when fielding at short leg. Gave me tingles. Watching it yesterday, I was generally like, whoa. And Tony Gregg's commentary was so good. I thought about clipping it out to play it, but instead I'm just going to read it.
Will you put on the Tony Gregg voice?
My South Africa via England accent? I don't think so.
Okay.
Let me see. A grudge is a place you park your car. Oh, he's got him. Has he caught him? Yes, he has. He's got him. It's a hat-trick. Yes, he's gone. He's gone. It's a hat-trick. That's a hat-trick to Shane Warne. A great moment in his career. What a catch by David Boone.
Not bad at all.
That's pretty good.
Honestly, if you've heard Tony Gregg, that's very not
If
bad.
you've heard Tony Gregg.
I haven't, but it was still fun.
Yeah, no, it's just so fun. I love it. He was such a great commentator.
That felt very captivating.
Often very
But it
anti-Australian
was
too.
like Booney was a nugget, right? And he was fielding right in close to the bat, and he just dived sideways.
Whoa.
Such a sick catch. He was also a handy, though inconsistent batsman. In the 2001 Perth Test against New Zealand, he made his highest score against, I think, your favourite cricketer, Dave. Am I remembering this right?
My favourite. Who are they playing?
New Zealand bowler.
Oh, Daniel Vettori.
That's right. So
He's really putting you on the spot a few times
I
today.
know. I was just thinking. Oh, my favourite cricketer. I was thinking, who are they playing? Was it Jacques Callis? Who was one of my favourites? Oh no, New Zealand. Got to be Daniel the Nerd Vettori.
Because I can't remember, you were on some podcast I was listening to, and you said he was your favourite player and some other guy, and they were like, are all your favourite sports people nerds? So yeah, he was on 99, 1 run to get his first ever Test century. Daniel Vettori bowls it. He goes for a slog and is caught after just skying it.
Should have just made a single, Warnie.
Yeah, exactly. He just got impatient. But replays showed the ball was a no ball by a long way. He overstepped by so far.
But this was before
the automatic check. Yeah. Now, if it happened now, he would have he would have faced the next ball, probably skied it again. He was also, I'm getting to the end of his playing days. For the people who are finding this tedious at home, Warne was also a handy slip fielder, taking 125 catches, the 19th most catches as a fielder in Test cricket history. He's said to have changed the game of cricket forever. When he arrived, it was dominated by fast bowling and leg spin was a dying art. On his retirement, journalist Gideon Haigh said of Warne, "It was said of Augustus that he found Rome brick and left it marble. The same is true of Warne and spin bowling."
That's poetic wank.
Yeah.
Read that again. It is said of Augustus.
It was said of Augustus that he found Rome brick and left it marble. The same is true of Warne and spin bowling.
When Warne found spin bowling, it was a turd, and as now he's polished it.
It's golden.
That's
turd.
beautiful. That's nice.
Yeah, I love it. I love how I think it's one of my favourite things. Sports journalists talking about it as if it's high art.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, to me, I don't really get why it's, you know, we go, oh, actually, it's not proper art. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's all fucking...
It's not like a paintbrush.
It's all someone's passion. I don't
Totally.
know why... Yeah, but anyway,
Things can be done artfully.
yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. Warne's feats on the field were only half of his story,
You
though.
just say feet. You don't have to say feet.
Warne's feats.
If you've got...
Warne's feet.
I know you've got 2 feet, but you just say feet.
I'm like, is that wrong? That's probably not... Yeah, okay. Warne's foots on the field. Only half his story, what he did on the field. So now I'm going to talk a bit more about the colour and controversy he provided the game off the field. Apart from a love of cricket, Dave, what is the other passion... You're talking about putting him on the spot. What's the other passion you and Warne famously share?
What do we both love doing? We both love the work of David Suchet as Hercule Poirot.
Possibly. That's unverified. Do you have a guess?
I mean, is it
Nippies.
music?
Baked beans.
Oh, it is baked beans. Brilliant. I thought you were going to say durries for sure. Which
Dave loves
Dave Durry
durries.
Warnicky. Dave the Dart
I'm a
Warnicky.
chain smoker.
That's why we call him Duz.
Yeah.
Duz Warnicky. He
Yeah, he's
loves
always,
a durry.
whenever we record, he says, just popping off to the John. We know what he's doing.
Yeah, he's having a chuff.
He's having a bloody dart.
Smoking like a chimney, he is.
There was a story, I'm going to talk a bit about his smoking later, but there was a story that the team were going on a boot camp and they're like, all right, so when we're out there, it's going to be army-style boot camp, no booze. We're going to give, these are the clothes you have to wear, no smoking. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Are we sure about that rule?
Yeah, and basically...
I'll shave my head. I'll wear the clothes.
He's like, I'm up for anything, but I can't do without the smokes. And they're like, well, you're just going to, no one can smoke. And he's like, well, I can't come. I'll be a nightmare if I come, and I can't just go cold turkey on the smokes. Eventually, they said, all right, we'll give you a little smoking area out of the way. Just don't tell anyone, sort of thing. So funny.
That's so funny. But good self-awareness for him to be like, I'm going to be a pain in the ass. If you
Yes,
make me go
that's
cold
right.
turkey, I will cut right back to the bare minimum for me. But going cold turkey, I'm not going to be a good person to be around.
I believe there's a similar story with him when he was on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, where he was, but I didn't have time to confirm that or not. But it's possibly another one of those stories that's told that isn't actually quite true. But anyway, so let's talk beans. La Bean Boy.
I'm ready.
In 1998, it was reported in the Daily Telegraph that, quote, an international airlift of baked beans and tin spaghetti is underway to save Shane Warne from wasting away after it emerged that the Australian leg spinner had been unable to face the local food on tour in India. Qantas, the Australian national airline, is flying 1,900 tins of beans and spaghetti to the team's hotel in time for the first test, which begins in Madras today.
That's so many.
Okay, so that's for the team. That's a lot of tins of...
Yeah, I mean,
that can't be for Warnie.
This is as being reported at the time. Warne described by Australian officials yesterday as, quote, not a fan of exotic cuisine, has apparently been existing on a diet of breakfast cereal, toast, cheese and Vegemite or naan bread, supplemented with vitamin pills since arriving in India nearly 2 weeks ago. This became a running joke from then on. Like it was in, one of those jokes that would be on panel shows and stuff a bit and that sort of thing. But according to Warne, it wasn't entirely true. He later said, "Let me tell you the story about the baked beans." I'm going to set the story straight. Everyone thinks...
He had to call a press conference.
All right, everyone.
Everyone thinks all I lived on in India for 12 weeks on the 1998 tour was baked beans. False. Incorrect.
Wow.
Bang.
Remember the mid-90s when tours used to go around for around 12 weeks? So we finished the tests and were getting ready for the one days. The then Australian coach, Jeff Marsh, sits down at breakfast and he opens a tin of spaghetti and baked beans. And we sat there after having the spicy stuff for so long in India and we thought, how good will some spaghetti and baked beans be on toast? So we said to Jeff Marsh, we still have 3 weeks to go. Is it possible to get some of these? So the next day he spoke to Cricket Australia and told us they've organised it and they should be here in a couple of days. So we get to the docks where the baked beans and spaghetti have been delivered and there's 3 tons of spaghetti and baked beans each. And on the side... Yeah. Well, what, 3 tons of spaghetti,
okay.
3 tons of baked beans.
I think 3 tons for each person.
He did put
I'm like, that's too much. That's way too much.
Yeah, oh my God. We will be swimming in it.
Yeah, you are literally preparing for the apocalypse at that point.
So there's big pallet of it, right?
Wow.
And on both sides of this big crate, it was written Shane Warne, India. There were a lot of other players who wanted the spaghetti and beans, but it was just addressed to me. So we all helped ourselves to a few tins and we gave away the rest to the people of India. And that's how the myth was born that I used to tour India and live on baked beans. So he's like, myth busted.
Bang!
Bang.
Bang.
Because I believe that story to be just that they were sent over for him. He was struggling with indigestion or, whatever.
Yeah.
He couldn't handle the food.
I thought so too. And as someone who once spent a week in Tokyo only eating at the restaurant in the hotel I was staying at, eating shepherd's pie and garlic bread every single night, I'm very disappointed that that's not a true story.
I'm sorry, yeah.
That's really disappointing.
Yeah, I think he loved it. He loved traveling over to India. I imagine he was not a foodie. He had no passion for food. According to him, if there's an opposite to a foodie, he's it. That's what he said in his book. This is from his book again. As I see it, a steak is a steak. What's the big deal? He hates wanky restaurants.
Yeah.
Spaghetti bolognese is about as far as it goes with me. Unless we have people around, then I'll do a barbecue chicken, burgers or sausages. I'll eat if I'm hungry and I won't if I'm not. I like hot chips, pasta, pizza, white bread, cheese sandwiches and apples. Everything else I can take or leave. Mainly leave.
That's so few things.
Yeah. He tells a story early in the book about how he used to eat everything at home when he was a kid. And that's just a strange story. One night, his brother, Jason, had an ear infection and his mum knew this home remedy that was boiling an onion and getting the onion juice and putting that into the ear.
Oh, God.
So that's what they did. And he's like, something happened and the next night I didn't eat dinner. It just put him off his food somehow. And the night after that, I didn't eat. I just lost my appetite. And he just stopped. He just only ate just very few things after that.
That's a baffling story.
Yeah, isn't it?
That something happened to his brother.
Yeah.
And he's like, it put me off.
But he was there. In my head, like she's boiled it in and she's used all these things that they eat with. And then just squirting it into his ear. He's like, oh. And somehow there's a gross association. But yeah, I don't know.
My brother shot himself in the hand with a nail gun. And since he did that, I've not been able to tolerate the colour green. I don't know what to tell you.
That makes sense to me as well.
Yeah, I can't look myself in the eye. That's baffling.
Also in 1998, one of the biggest controversies in Warne's career came to light. The Age reported on it at the time under this headline: Warne, Mark Waugh took bookies' cash. Warne, Mark Waugh took bookies' cash. All right, I'm reading on.
I'm listening.
Writing, 2 of Australia's greatest cricketers, bowler Shane Warne and batsman Mark Waugh, have been involved in a betting scandal that has plunged the game into one of its greatest crises of the modern era. The Australian Cricket Board confirmed last night that it had fined Waugh and Warne for providing information to an Indian bookmaker during Australia's tour of Sri Lanka in 1994. But cricket officials have covered up the scandal ever since, and the players were fined in early 1995. So it came out 3 years later.
Oh, wow.
Are you familiar with this story at all?
No, not really.
Well, Warne tells the story in his book, and his version suggests he was a lot more naive than dodgy. Went on tour in Sri Lanka. Warne was at a casino. He loved casinos, loved roulette, loved blackjack, loved gambling. Doesn't sound like he was very good at it though. And he when he was there, he saw Mark Wall with this guy. Went over. The guy introduced himself as John. John said he'd won a bunch of cash on the Aussie cricket team over the years, and said, "Here, have this $5,000 betting chip," because Warne had just told him that he'd done all his dough. And Warne goes, "Nah, I'm fine. I don't need your money. I'm okay." But then the guy called him up the next day and said, "Hey, come around for lunch." He said, "Yeah, no worries. Any mate of Mark Wall's a mate of mine. If you come around if you want." They had lunch, and the guy again goes, "Go on, here's $5,000. I really appreciate all the joy you've given me or whatever." And he goes, "All right, I'll take it." And that was it. He goes, "And that was that." See, I love it. He says stuff like that. And that was that. When back in Melbourne, leading up to the Boxing Day test, John called him at his hotel. It's out of the blue. This is months later. According to Warne, we had a general chat about cricket. There was no alarm bells when he asked how the weather was in Melbourne. I said, "Fine, bit overcast, but should be fine. Good forecast for the 5 days. Pitch looks good." I kind of chatted as you would to a journo if doing an interview. Dry pitch, might spin towards the end of the match. Should be good for me, blah, blah, blah. "Yeah, cool, thanks," he said. That was it. He wished him a happy Christmas. He said, "Happy Christmas to you too." Then apparently he was asked about this conversation 6 months later by team management, and he was shocked to hear he'd been caught up in a scandal. He was fined $8,000 and Mark Wall was fined $10,000.
Oh, he's down 3.
Yeah.
They weren't banned from playing, and there was no suggestion that any match fixing was going on, but their reputations were tarnished when the affair came out. It seems like back then they were more like, let's just sweep this under the rug. This will be more trouble in its whether it gets out. But I think they ended up going public with it because a journalist had heard about it.
Right.
Speaking of match fixing, Warne was offered $200,000 by Pakistan captain Salim Malik to bowl poorly to force a draw against Pakistan.
How much money?
$200,000.
Whoa.
When Warne at the time was on like $20,000 a year to play for Australia, and he was like, he said he laughed. He's like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he's like, Malik saying, if Pakistan lose, it's going to be real bad. He was sort of guilting him, saying it'll be bad. Bad things will happen to the players and stuff. And he's like,
wow.
What's going on? He's like, "I can get you $200,000 by tomorrow. You just have to bowl wide. We'll leave it. We won't hit it. No runs will be scored. The match will end in a draw." So Warne was sharing a room at the time with Tim May, and he came back to the room. He said, explained to Tim May what happened. He said he wants to pay us $200,000 for bowling poorly, and apparently Tim May said, "You don't have to pay me $200,000 for that," which is a good line in the moment.
Fun.
Love that.
Bit of fun. Love that, Tim. It's also quite a serious conversation, but you're making it light.
Yeah.
No, only joking, mate.
Only joking,
That's
mate.
exactly how he tells it. He says, "Wait, hang on, what?" and then
Hey,
he
you don't have
realizes
to pay me $200,000 for that. Nah, a bit of fun. We absolutely shouldn't do that, of
We
course.
should go tell the coach
that's
right now.
That's morally incorrect.
They tell the team management, it gets passed up the chain. Eventually, it leads to a hearing, and Malik's career is ended over it.
Whoa.
Funnily enough, the game was real tight in the end. So Warne's like going, "I want to win this even more than ever now." And he bowled the last ball. They needed 3 more runs. Australia needed 1 last wicket. So it was like anyone's game. Warne steps up to bowl. Bowls it. It goes, I think there's a stumping opportunity, but Healy misses and it goes through for 4-leg byes. 4 byes, and Pakistan wins. And I'd seen him tell this story somewhere on YouTube or something, and in the comments, someone's like, "Sounds like Healy took the money."
Yeah, that was my first thought.
Isn't that interesting? But obviously, there's no suggestion of that, but yeah.
Wow.
Whoops. And also the umpire... Warne reckons that one of the last 2 batsmen was plumb LBW, and the umpire gave it not out. I was like, the umpire take the money.
Turns out Warne's the only one stupid enough not to take the money.
In 2003, Warne was again caught up in controversy when he was banned from playing cricket for a year for taking a banned substance. Remember this one?
No.
As it turned out, the banned substance was a diuretic Warne said was given to him by his mum to help him lose weight. She was like, you could lose a few pounds.
Oh,
Feels like people were going at him about his weight his whole life. The diuretic also included ingredients that could be used as a masking agent against other prohibited substances, so it in itself was a banned substance.
Oh, I see.
And Warne was returning from a shoulder injury at the time. Could have got a 2-year ban, but I guess they believed his story that it was naive, stupid, but innocent.
God, that must be so hard though, that you have to be so careful about everything that passes your lip, everything that goes into your body.
Yes.
Having to be so careful and hesitant about everything.
I think, and as time goes on, professional sports people are more and more aware of it. There was a Saints player around 10 years ago who had an energy drink that wasn't just a mainstream one.
Oh.
And he got banned for a year.
I vaguely remember that actually, I think,
and
how
that
crazy.
That ended his career.
You're just like, oh, that seems interesting.
Yeah,
Have
that's
a drink.
right. But now they're like, everything you have, you got to check.
That must be awful. And even if you think about it, okay, they're professional sports people. They're putting their bodies under extreme pressure. I can move wrong on the couch and need an anti-inflammatory. Like just for them to sort of have to think so much about it and be like, what am I allowed to take for pain or for any other kind of medical issue that you might have? It's crazy.
Yeah. But also, on the other hand, there are people who would say that that's the real. I just didn't know when it is actually being used to mask them doing something dodgy.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, and I just you would have like a team of doctors that you could ask, hey, can I have this?
So you understand
their
why
job.
there's hard and fast rules.
Yeah.
About because.
But imagine like having an energy drink and that fucking your
career.
Yeah. Awful.
And them, the whoever's judging on it being like, yeah, we believe you, but we can't. If we bend on this, then it leaves a loophole for other people.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow. Bang.
Wow.
According to a report at the time of the Age, Warne said the fluid tablet was taken for the sake of appearance and before his shoulder injury, proving he was not a cheat who had taken diuretics to mask other drugs to speed his recovery. Warne said he had been doing a lot of wine promotions at the time. Quote, I'd had a couple too many bottles of wine and a few late nights, he said. I took a fluid tablet then. That was the first time my mum, gave it to me. It was to get rid of the double chin. Asked whether it was fair to say he had been stupid, Warne replied, stupid's a harsh word. I don't consider myself to be stupid. I consider myself to be probably very silly. I should have checked. Warne said that he took full responsibility for his actions. There's been talks about me blaming my mum. I never ever blame my mum because I take responsibility for what goes into my mouth. But he'd cop a lot of shit about that as well, like he was passing the buck on to his mum. He's like, no, that's just where I got it from. I wasn't actually...
No.
It does feel like people love to jump on him.
Yeah.
They'd always take the negative side of things.
Yeah.
Not everyone. I think there's probably 50-50. There was probably half who are doing the opposite of that. Warne admitted that he should have listened more closely to Australian sports drug agency briefings on banned substances. But he said that just as when he was at school, he had not paid attention. So Warne had a year off cricket, in which he spent some of his time as an unpaid mentor to players at the St Kilda Football Club.
Ah.
They were keen to get him in, but the AFL didn't allow him to have an official position, so it had to be an unofficial sort of... He wasn't allowed...
He was like hanging around the boundary line. Hey, you're doing well.
He wasn't
Run
allowed...
faster.
Wasn't allowed to practice bowling at any official cricket field or anything like that.
Would have been an awkward Christmas. Everyone else gets out there in the backyard. Sorry, Uncle Shane.
I don't know. Is this official? I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to risk it.
Greg's mowing a pitch into the lawn. And they went on a family holiday to Spain, which he said was pretty nice because it was one of the few times where cricket wasn't first priority, which is pretty brutal. Yeah. Tells stories of when his kids were being born and he's getting the phone call. Oh, man, I meant to pull that out. There was one story, like he saw the photos of his first daughter being born. He's like, oh, my God. babies are meant to be cute. This is hideous. And his parents were like, oh, did you get any photos? He's like, no, he'd hidden them away. And then he's later like, yeah, I don't know why I was being so weird. I was just in shock. All the blood and everything. Yeah. He just like, in a lot of ways, it was just like a big kid, you know?
Yeah.
So honest.
Yeah. So writing that in
so
your book.
ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his kids can read. So you're reading that like, thanks, Dad.
Yeah, like I said before, Warne hated drugs, never touched cocaine or anything like that. But he smoked like a chimney. And according to his book, he took it up very young. This is from his book. When my brother Jason and I were 11 or 12, Dad caught us smoking and locked us in a closet. He said, if you guys want to smoke, here's a pack each. You're not coming out until you've smoked a lot.
Oh, that classic.
It is a classic. I've never heard it actually happen.
Yeah.
And I've never heard it inside an enclosed space.
Yeah,
That would
making
be
it
horrific.
Yeah, that's right. He goes on. I was violently ill after a couple of smokes, coughing and spluttering, shouting, Dad, let me out. But Jay stayed in there for hours, smoked a lot.
Dad, this is fucking great.
This is the best. You're the best dad ever.
Thanks, Dad.
Apparently, once he was done, he came out and said, any more, Dad?
Oh,
How many more you got?
That poor kid.
We probably would have said it more like, any more, Dad?
Yeah, any more.
How many you got? Despite attempts to quit, Warne smoked for the rest of his life.
From that point on.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's so bad.
Yeah,
That's awful.
definitely did not work.
His dad's like, this is really backfired.
In 1999, he was paid a big chunk of money, seen it being reported as either 200,000 or $1 million.
Wow.
Could be, like a
Somewhere
lot of these
between
things.
that. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money. So he was paid that by nicotine substitute company Nicorette to quit smoking. The deal got a lot of attention as Warne was famous for his love of darts. Melbourne comedian John Safran tried to tempt Warne by sending out a remote-controlled seagull with a cigarette in its beak onto the MC during a match. Safran was arrested for trespassing, but was found not guilty in court. Apparently, it's the only time... You know, Safran's sort of a comedian slash journalist, author slash prankster.
Yeah.
All the pranks he ever did, that was the only time he ever was taken to court for it. For sending out a little remote-controlled car
Who
with a
took him to
seagull on it.
court? Do you remember?
I think it would have been the MCG, I
Yeah, it
guess.
doesn't feel like Warne
No,
would,
Warne
would find that very funny,
Yeah,
I would
imagine.
assume.
He would have said, you fucking... What are you being a fucking asshole, hey? I don't know what that was.
That was a very good Warne.
Bang.
You know, Warne.
Yeah, Tony Gregg, pretty good. Shane Warne, I don't know what that was.
Needs
I don't know
work.
what that was. I'm
Needs
tired.
work.
I'm tired.
Hey, I'm tired of listening to this.
I've had enough of this.
I've had enough of your tomfoolery.
So days before the 4-month sponsorship ended, he was out drowning sorrows at a bar in Barbados, after being dropped from the team mid-tour. Steve Warne, they were mates early on, and then they really had a big falling out, and they were vice-captain and captain. And Warne hated how Steve Warne was like, respect the hat, the baggy green cap, it's all about the cap. And actually like... literally respecting the hat.
Yeah.
And Warne's like, this is a bit ridiculous.
It's more about the symbolism of the hat, I would have thought.
Yeah.
You're literally telling me not to look at your hat in the eyes.
So they had a falling out about this and about a few other things. And Warne was out of form on this tour. And Steve Warne, on tour, the selection committee was the captain, vice captain and coach. And Warne's like, I don't think you should play this next test, Warne. And Warne's like, oh, no, I've been out of form, but I'm just coming back from the injury. I'm feeling better with every day. It's about to click. You can definitely play me. I'm feeling good. Warne asked the coach. Coach said, no, I think it was Rod Marsh at the time. She said, or Jeff Marsh, one of the Marshes. And he said, no, I reckon we play Warne. And was like, I really don't think we do. They got AB, Alan Border, who was in town. Said, let's get another opinion from him. Border said, you got to play Warne. You got to play Warne. And then Steve Warne goes, sorry, guys, my call. You're not playing. So he was dropped from the team. It was sort of weird. So it feels like it was a bit personal and whatever.
Yeah.
And so Warne was annoyed and angry. He went out that night and... hit that Barbados pub hard. According to Warne, he bummed a smoke off teammate Damien Martin And as soon as he lit it, a flash went off and the guy behind the camera yelled, "I'm going to sell this."
It sounds like a bad movie.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Cha-ching.
Apparently Warne said, "Whatever, mate, fuck off."
That's I think a pretty reasonable response.
Didn't think more about it. Had another beer. He woke up feeling, he's like, uh-oh, what have I done? Called his brother who was managing him. They called Nicorette. And luckily, Nicorette was pretty chill about it. They backed him and said something like, "No worries, quitting is hard. We knew this. It normally takes people at least 3 tries. No, it's very hard to go cold turkey. We knew something like this had happened." You know, like, oh my God, that's...
Thank God.
But yeah, but it's so... All I remember of it is people being like, "Haha, Warnie, sucked it, we got you."
Yeah, got him.
Yeah, so gross.
Wow, I really didn't think that story was going to end that way. I thought there was going to be a big deal where they
Yeah.
dropped
Money's
him.
given back and
Yeah.
apparently not.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I never heard that side of the story. It's so
That's
fun.
very reasonable.
Warne's infidelity also had him on the front pages of the tabloids at different times during his career. He was not very good at monogamy. According to the Sydney Morning Herald, Warne was stripped of the Australian vice-captaincy after a lewd text message scandal involving a Leicestershire nurse during a playing stint in England in 2000. More allegations would surface in the following years, hitting a peak in England in 2005 when Warne was linked to at least 2 other women. He and his wife Simone, who had 3 children together, separated later that year. Simone Callahan and Warne had been married since 1995, so it was about 10 years at that time. They got back together briefly a couple of years later after they separated, but it didn't last. Yeah, but apparently they did get on very well in the end, which is nice to hear. And because they had 3 kids together, and they both put that
Gotta still
as
be in
pretty
each other's
important.
lives, yeah.
Oh, according to this great cricketing website I found called wikipedia.org. I assume wiki
like
is...
Wicket?
Yeah, I assume it's short for wickets.
Wicket.
That's
Wikipedia.
fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
That
I like
makes sense.
that. So it's like all about cricket, this website.
Yeah, it's like a quick info website.
Oh, cool.
So to speak. So this is from wikipedia.org. Following his split from Callahan, Warne dated English actress Elizabeth Hurley. Although the relationship at first seemed short-lived, following the disclosure of Warne texting sexual messages to a married Melbourne businesswoman, the couple created a media frenzy when Hurley later moved into Warne's mansion in Brighton, Victoria. They announced that they were engaged in late 2011, but had called off the engagement by December 2013. Warne later reflected that, quote, "I was more in love with Elizabeth than I'd realised I could be. I missed the love we had. My years with Elizabeth were the happiest of my life."
Oh, wow.
So he only had 2 long-term relationships. That was with Simone Callahan and Elizabeth Hurley.
What about cricket?
Oh, obviously, cricket was the love of his life
And
in the end.
the longest relationship you have is with yourself.
That's
So,
true.
Can't get away.
Can't get away. You can try, and I have. But you gotta be your own best friend. That's what I always say.
So you gotta love yourself if you want
Yeah.
other people to love you.
That's what I say. I'll say in the mirror. I say, "Love you."
Love you.
Hey, love you. Just say that a bit.
Yeah, they never say
And
it
then
back.
in the one in the mirror says, "Fuck you."
Yeah, and does that sort of fake out
Yeah,
head
and I like
charge?
flinch and go, "Ha!" And it goes, "Gotcha,
Yeah.
dickhead." Anyway, but we are getting closer.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I remember a story about when Liz Hurley moved in. There was because my mum worked at a school in Brighton where Warnie's kids went actually, and there was choppers flying over Brighton, just like
Yeah.
media choppers. There was paparazzi out the front of the house, and one time a mattress got delivered, and they're all taking pictures of this mattress, and they got a new mattress delivered, and they didn't even order it. Someone from the press ordered it.
Right. Yeah, it's
just
I mean,
fucked.
that's what. Yeah, they just had this real weird. I guess they knew he sold papers,
Yeah,
but it was just. It feels like a lot of bullshit.
Front page, mattress delivery.
yeah.
That's why some of these things I'm quoting, I'm like, I'm taking their word for it a bit
Yeah.
here. But yeah, so if it sounded ridiculous when I said the couple created a media frenzy,
Yeah, no,
when
it's
you
not
mean
at all.
like,
It was huge.
yeah, we're just like, people are going to look back on our time like we do when people used to go watch a train come to town. They're like, they had helicopters out because a cricketer and an actress were living together.
Yeah.
Maybe made a purchase. Turned out they didn't actually.
They didn't actually.
They've bought something.
A mattress for sleeping on or other things.
Oh.
Mattresses are very sexy.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
You do all sorts of stuff
I
on a
call it
mattress.
the workbench. They used to, that was the cliche on cribs where they go, this is where I do a lot of my good work whenever they went to the bedroom. It was always,
Yuck.
it always felt pretty cool. So Warne's post-cricket career was jam-packed. He worked as a cricket commentator around the world. In late 2009, of course, Warne hosted a variety chat show on Channel 9 called Warnie. Guests included Sir Michael Parkinson, Sting, Danny Minogue, and Coldplay's Chris Martin. But the show's ratings didn't reach expectations, and the final episode of the 5-episode run didn't go ahead. Despite this, Channel 9 was said to be impressed by Warne's hosting, with a spokesperson saying, I think people were pretty impressed with Shane. He was very, very comfortable as a host, which is glowing praise.
It's very funny to give Warnie his own show and then, as one of the guests, bring on one of the best interviewers in the world.
I think that they were mates, and that one of the more famous serious interviews Warnie ever did was on Parkinson.
Yeah.
And but in the lead up to the show, Warnie said, I don't think Parko's shaking in his boots. Of course, we maybe know the show best because it gave us that classic line, what's your favourite Coldplay song? Mine's a Scientist. The day the news broke of Warnie's death, I was driving and they played a memorial package accompanied by Coldplay's Fix You, and I thought, they don't know him at all.
I don't know him.
Absolutely wrong.
So close yet so
Incorrect.
far. He's been pretty open about it.
Yeah.
A listener found a tweet. He tweeted about it as well. His favourite Bruce song is Thunder Road, which is my favourite Bruce song as
Okay,
well.
there you go.
Which made me think maybe my favourite Coldplay song is The Scientist. Warnie was also involved in a nightclub in Melbourne called Club 23, named after the number he wore in junior footy and international cricket. 7 News called the club a celebrity after-party hotspot, where stars such as Tiger Woods, Usain Bolt, Harry Kewell and Liz Hurley called it home during their trips down under. Lasted 8 years before closing in 2019. I never got to go there. Did you guys
No,
go?
I've never been there.
Where
It
was
was it was at Crown, which he just loved casino. So
Yeah, makes sense.
it was attached there. Warne's other business interests included he had a lot of things during his playing days. His first big, he was like, I was earning 20 grand a year, and that slowly went up. But after a few years, he started getting endorsement deals, and
Yeah.
that was when he started earning proper money.
That's the big cash.
Nike, he had this Nike one, and he was flown over to Nike headquarters, and he hung out with Jordan, and
Whoa.
he designed his own Shane Warne shoes, like Nike Air shoes.
Were they like Michael Jordan? This is Shane Warne. He's kind of the Michael Jordan of cricket.
Cricket is
sort
like
of
Yeah, wow. I mean, what a life, hey?
Yeah.
Packed a lot into 52 years.
Just a kid from the burbs.
Yeah.
Another one of his business interests was 708 Gin, named after the amount of test wickets he took. So you can drink like Shane.
I don't think I can drink like Shane, actually.
And from 2020, you could also smell like Shane when he released SW23 by Shane Warne, the debut fragrance. That's the full title. Which, according to the company, quote, exudes sophistication, sensuality, and warmth with sumptuous ingredients that envelop the senses. Why did I do that to myself?
I'm sorry.
But anyway, yeah, I've got to get myself some of that.
Yeah, get yourself some SW23.
Of the scent, Warnie said, I've had some good feedback from women. They seem to like this. People will notice you wearing it and they will comment on how wonderful you smell.
They notice you wearing it.
I love it. I
What's
got to
that
get
smell?
some.
Oh, you don't stink. Huh.
You smell less like cigarettes
That's interesting.
than usual.
He was like, yeah. All profits from the sale of the cologne went to Melbourne-based children's charity Deck My Room, which provides decorations for the hospital wards of paediatric and young adult
Oh,
patients.
that's nice.
That is very nice.
He was often very charitable. He did
Yeah.
like the whole way through his career, and a lot of it goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
People, no,
You'd kind of hope so, in
Yeah.
a way, wouldn't you? Because if it's really flashy, it's like, who are you doing this
yeah,
for?
yeah. I saw just a friend on Facebook, I think, had they were talking about how they were involved in a charity with sick kids, and they went out to sort of like a Ronald McDonald House type thing.
Yep.
And he bought 3 buses for them just to be able to take the kids back and forth.
Oh, wow.
And that was something like no one ever heard. She only knew about it because, she was involved.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think there was a lot of that sort of stuff going on behind the scenes. Most famously of his recent years, he donated his famous baggy green hat, which we know he didn't put up on a pedestal.
Yes,
quite
Steve was like, I'm not going to fucking sell mine. I'll still sleep with that.
When I say
That's
sleep
my
with it, I mean
child.
in a biblical sense.
I have sex with this hat every night.
This hat is my wife, and I will not be selling my wife.
His nickname is Tugger.
And he had that little red rag.
That's right. Oh my god.
Little red cum rag. Anyway.
Warne auctioned off the hat, the baggy green, after the devastating bushfires of a couple of years ago, and it sold for $1 million.
Wow.
It now resides with Don Bradman's at the Bradman Museum in Bowral, which is
That's
so cool.
nice.
So you can go to this little country town in New South Wales and see Warnie's hat with the Dons side by side. Very cool.
That's beautiful.
Warne also launched...
Is it not?
That's beautiful.
Not quite selling it.
That's beautiful.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice touch.
Nice, that is.
It is a nice.
That's beautiful.
Warne also launched the Shane Warne...
Guys,
It's like a sham wow, but it's a Shane wow.
Shane, I really appreciate this sign, but you have misspelled mine. I'm not Shane Warne, and I'm not a span bowler. I'm not a spanner.
shocker.
I'm Australia's most famous spanner.
The Shane Wow Institute for the Dyslexic. Shane Wow.
Shane Wow.
So he launched the Shane Warne Foundation in 2004, an Australian not-for-profit organisation with the intention of assisting seriously ill and underprivileged children and teenagers. Warne worked hard for the foundation, but it also hit controversy due to alleged mismanagement. According to wikipedia.org, that great cricket info website, Consumer Affairs Victoria commenced an investigation in 2015 into the foundation after it failed to submit financial returns. Financial returns in 2014 had revealed the charity spent $281,434 on fundraising during the year, but its efforts only raised $279,198, net loss of a couple grand. Newspapers alleged that the organisation was only donating 16 cents in the dollar of its income. During 1 year, the chief executive of the foundation, his brother Jason, was paid a salary of 80 grand, whilst only 54,600 was distributed to beneficiaries. The organisation spent more than $300,000 on catering, alcohol and prizes for events while posting significant annual losses. In January 2016, in response to what it termed unwarranted speculation, the foundation announced its intention to distribute its final funds on the 18th of March 2016 and closed down. So it ended up closing down. In his book, he talks about it a bit like it got a real bad rap. It's been misrepresented.
Mm.
How do you know? I don't know. I'm reading off Wikipedia, so...
Yeah.
Obviously, a pretty handy and comprehensive resource there.
Yeah, and always 100% accurate.
In 2008, Melbourne singer and actor Eddie Perfect wrote and starred in Shane Warne the Musical.
Yeah, of course.
Which went on to win the 2009 Helpman Award for Best New Australian Work and the 2008 Green Room Award for Best New Australian Musical. While initially superstitious of the project, Warne later gave his approval after watching the show, saying, "I think Eddie and his team have written the musical in a respectful and sympathetic way, and that they have captured my fun, larrikin side." The Herald Sun's review of the show said, "The musical is a wild, funny, outrageous, and by the end, surprisingly moving account of the champion spin bowler's life so far. Among the fun, there's genuine respect for Warne's enormous talent, but it doesn't gloss over his personal failings." I really respect how when something like that is both making fun of you and, and he can go along and be in on the joke.
And go, yeah, no, they've done well there.
Yeah.
Rather than feeling defensive or attacked or embarrassed. Yeah, that's cool.
Love that. One of my favourite things, this is, I think, we're getting to the end of the report here, but one of my favourite things about Warne's post-cricket life was the mural he commissioned for his house. Do you know this one?
Yep.
It's I'll show it just for Bob, but I'll post a photo of this on social media. So it's basically his dream barbecue scenario. So I'll just give you a quick look, Bob, and then I'll talk everyone through it. So you got Jolly, game of cards here, and Jack Nicholls.
Okay.
Holding a VB slab.
And that's at his house.
That's at his house, or it was at his house, yeah. So there's a brief video. For some reason, he was interviewed about it at one point, and there's a brief clip of it on YouTube of someone filming their TV, but it cuts off halfway through, and that seems to be the only version of that interview out there. So in it, he talks about it a bit. So I've got a bit of an insight. In one corner, Warne is in conversation with Bruce Springsteen. He's holding a cricket ball. He's like, imagine the conversations we could be having. Then he says, the legend Mick Jagger is just chilling. And you've got Frank Sinatra and Muhammad Ali singing along. Meanwhile, he says, JFK is mixing with Sharon Stone and Marilyn Monroe, while Jack Nicholson is bringing in a slab of VB in the centre of the painting, and he's got that classic "Here's Johnny" sort of grin. Angelina Jolie is lying on a lounge naked apart from a sheet for some reason. And Chris Martin from Coldplay is having a bit of a chat with cricketer Michael Clarke. Elvis and James Dean also feature, as well as Sean Connery as Bond playing poker with some of his poker
dogs.
Was it Joe Hasham? I think he was a famous Australian poker player who was mates with Warne, who was there too. What? Yeah, so pretty great. And I don't know a lot about art, but I know what I like. And I don't hate this. In fact, I fucking love it. The media was very snooty about it, of course.
They
like they have been with it. It feels like a lot of stuff with him is kind of classist bullshit.
Yeah.
There was an article on stuff.co.New Zealand which writes, in a terrifying insight into the mind of Australia's former king of spin, Shane Warne's ultimate fantasy has been revealed in a painting that takes centre stage in the study of his Melbourne home. Presumably Gandhi, Nietzsche and Beethoven didn't make the cut.
I mean, yeah, you're right. It is kind of classist, but like, it's a bit of art for his house.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit?
It is also very funny.
It's very funny.
I mean, I love it.
It's very funny.
It's just so funny to be like,
Oh, and yeah, criticising him for not having people you think deserve
more
more
worthy.
Admiration. It's weird, isn't it?
Could not tell
I agree.
them to fuck off any further.
I don't want that painting. I wouldn't commission that painting.
I mean, I would. I'd go, just a quick change. Can you get me in that conversation with Warne and Bruce?
Yeah.
Was Michael Clarke a good mate of his?
They were great mates, yeah. He talks about it on how they were on tour and when his marriage was falling apart, that Clarke he'd just sit with him for hours, just sort of keeping him company.
That's nice.
When he was really battling. Yeah.
That's mateship right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Bloody hell, bloody do.
Bloody oath, mate.
Anyway, all good things must come to an end, and sadly, this one came to an end way too soon. On the 4th of March 2022, at the age of 52, Warne died from natural causes, probably a heart attack, on the island of Koh Samui in Thailand. Koh Samui, which we've been to, where I told a crowd the story of Booney. His death came on the same day as that of fellow Australian cricketer Rod Marsh, to whom Warne paid tribute on Twitter only a few hours prior to his own death. 6 days after Warne's death, his body was returned to Melbourne on a private plane from Thailand. His statue at the MCG was flooded with tributes, including flowers, VBs, cans of baked beans and packs of darts. The sculpture of Warne mid-delivery, which stands outside Gate 2 of the famous venue, has been transformed into a makeshift memorial with dozens of floral bouquets sprawled around the pedestal. This is from Sky News. The site was visited by Warne's 3 children, Brooke, Jackson and Summer, and their mother, Simone Callaghan, this week. Callaghan later posted a montage of Warne with the kids on social media, writing, "Shane's greatest love, our children Brooke, Jackson and Summer. Shane was taken too soon from their young lives. Eternal love remains and will never leave. Farley, Shane. The state funeral is planned for the MCG, or actually it would have already happened by the time this episode goes out, where the Great Southern Stand will also be renamed in his honour. I think it's going to be called the Shane Warne Stand, which is amazing. It's been the Great Southern Stand forever.
Yeah, it's incredible.
My whole life. So, and it's the big stand where the big chunk of people sit. So I think that's very cool. It's also where the old Bay 13's in there, and
wow.
I remember. There's a few memories I've been trying to figure out if I was at the game or at the TV, because I used to go to a lot of those one days. One days in Australia used to be big. The MCG could get 80,000 people.
Amazing.
And I went to a bunch of them, and there was one. I'm sure I was in the crowd, but I might be mixing memories, where the crowd were throwing shit at the English players, like bottles and stuff.
Oh my God!
And it wouldn't stop. It got really out of control. So they sent Warnie out to over and to tell the crowd to stop, and they did. He just sort of signed. He said, "Cut it out. No, none of this. No throwing." And then he walked off the ground again, and that was enough.
Everyone's like, "All right,
all right."
No, fair enough, Shane.
Fair enough, King.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, we did go a bit far there, Warnie. Sorry, mate. We got a bit carried away. Sorry about that, mate.
We probably shouldn't throw glass bottles at people trying to do their job.
Yeah,
you're right.
You're right. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was a different time.
Yeah, wow.
Getting glass bottles at a cricket ground. A silver lining of his death is that thousands of Australians apparently have been getting their heart health checked in the aftermath.
Really?
In what has been dubbed as the Shane Warne effect. I mean, that was on a clip with Karl Stefanovic.
Okay.
So I don't know how widely the Shane Warne effect term is being used, but anyway.
But yeah, I mean, he was 52.
Yeah.
That makes people around that age, older, younger, whatever, sort of go, oh, shit,
Yeah, and he was, people talk about, one of these things that's often talked about him is he was fat, but he was never really, it's not like he was just a normal sort of guy.
Yeah.
And his weight did go up and down a little bit.
So does everyone's.
Yeah, I know. It's
so hypocritical.
It's, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's people who you see articles since he died mentioning his vanity and stuff, getting Botox and stuff. You're like, what the fuck are you talking?
Because you spent 20 years criticising everything about how he looked and his body, and so then he did things to probably make himself feel better, but also, I don't know, to appease that, and then you criticise him for that?
Yeah.
It's bullshit.
It is such fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not end on that negative note. I'm going to finish with a quote from ex-cricket journalist and current shark on the chase. Do you think I can call him friend of the show?
Friend of the show, yeah.
Bryden Coverdale. He wrote this, I think, on the day of his passing. Shane Warne, he's on Twitter, he's often tweeting out niche cricket facts and stats and stuff. Massive cricket nerd. And yeah, follow him if you're into cricket. Bryden wrote, Shane Warne was first to 700 test wickets, an unfathomable milestone. But judging Warne on stats is like counting how many words Shakespeare wrote. It misses the point. He redefined his art. He made leg spin cool. He changed the game. The most influential cricketer of my lifetime. I love bringing in high arty sort of things like Shakespeare. Because it wasn't Shakespeare at the time, wasn't high art either.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
But I love that line. Judging Warne on stats is like counting how many words Shakespeare wrote.
Yeah.
Oh, Shakespeare was so good. He wrote thousands of words.
God,
His players had fucking heaps of words.
He was prolific with words.
So that is my report on the late, great Shane Warne. I don't know if I could tell. I was feeling like I might have cried at the end of the end there. Like this is what I was saying before. Yeah, it's funny to feel such big feelings about someone you never met.
Yeah, but like you say, I mean, you grew up watching him, and he was a one in a generation kind of player that was thrilling to watch.
Yeah, and also
he died young.
Just a huge character and all those sort of things. I think I just always assumed, because we both love the Saints. We're around. I'm like, one day I'm gonna have a night out with Warnie. I think I always just thought that would just happen.
You'll end
up
at the same sort of function, and you'll get to say g'day or something. Yeah. Well, well done. What a great report.
Yeah. Well, Very, very well said.
Um,
Obviously, it is a bit emotional, especially as we were recording it even closer to the date of his death and maybe we are releasing it.
Yeah.
So it's, hit a lot of people hard. So well done, Matt.
well, that brings us to everyone's favourite section of the show, the Fact, Quote or Question section. It's also a section where we thank a bunch of our other great supporters. I think this section, Bob, has a little jingle that goes something like this.
Fact, quote, or question.
Oh, he always remembers the ding. And this is where we thank a lot of our great supporters to keep this show running. The first part, if you want to get involved, I should say, you can go to patreon.com/dugonpod or dugonpod.com. And there's a bunch of different levels, all sorts of different rewards, bonus episodes. We do 3 every month. There's 140 odd available
That's
to
right.
you now.
And as soon as you support the show, you get access to all those bonus episodes.
And there's also a great community on Facebook and on the Patreon for you to chat amongst like-minded individuals. So the first thing we like to do, though, is our Fact, Quote or Question section, which, if you're on the Sydney Scheinberg level, you have to give us a fact, a quote, or question. That makes sense.
And it can really be anything. It could be a brag, a suggestion, a recipe.
Oh, yeah.
Just anything. It
Public
can be anything,
announcement.
Anything you want it to be. It's your time to shine.
Bit of advice.
Yes.
That's right. Well, the first one this week comes from Kelly Clark, and you also get to give yourself a title. And Kelly's title is Triptychi Fact, Quote, and Questioner. And Kelly has got a question here, which is, koala bears aren't bears. Do you know what they are? Matt, pause here for answers. Oh, do you know?
Well, I know they're not bears.
Yep.
It frustrates me, actually, when I'm watching TV or a movie or something and they say koala bear. I'm like, not a bear.
Yeah.
It's just like a real... It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We all know what they're talking about. If you say koala bear, I know exactly what you mean. It's not worth me getting that upset about, but I fucking do.
Just an irrational thing.
It's not a bear. They're not marsupials, are they?
How much can a koala
No,
bear?
they're not
funny,
marsupials.
whenever I see-
Marsupials lay eggs.
When I see a koala...
Koalas don't
No,
like-
no, marsupials are pouches.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm thinking-
Monotremes are egg-laying
Thank you.
marsupials, like
Egg-laying mammals.
egg-laying
Platypus.
mammals, the platypus and the echidna.
Yeah.
It's funny, every time I see a koala on TV, I yell, it's not a reptile!
Yeah.
Just instinctively.
But nobody says it. Nobody says, oh, it's a koala lizard.
Yeah, they don't.
Idiot.
Yet.
So it's not a bear. What is it? Cute.
Just some sort of fluffy mammal.
Kelly says, they're criminals. Yeah, they're fucking criminals. Koala bear fingerprints are scientifically indistinguishable from fingerprints under forensic analysis. So koala bears could be running around committing all sorts of koala bear crimes and leaving their koala bear fingerprints all over the crime scene to frame human beings.
Oh, my God.
Australian police think that koala bears have... Are you loving how many times she said koala bears?
It's killing me.
Australian police think that koala bears have actively impeded criminal investigations. Wake up, sheeple. This is a quote from @wow_it's_Ian on TikTok.
Wow.
Great quote. Thank you so much, Kelly Clark, for your contribution.
That is
there.
good.
The next one comes from Katie Clays, who's got the title of Mother of the Sass Queen. Huh. There you go. Is that you?
Yeah. I feel like Katie hasn't changed her title from last time, because I remember last time we had that exact conversation.
Do we?
Is that you? Yeah.
Katie's offered a fact, which is 3 fun facts about Broome, Western Australia. 1, gabinge, a bush fruit found in Broome and on the Dampier Peninsula, is known to have the highest vitamin C of any fruit in the world.
Cool. Yum.
Cool.
Gabinge
Take
is a
that,
great name.
oranges.
Yeah, sucked
Idiots.
in. 2, pearl meat is a delicacy in Broome and retails for around $150 per kilo.
Pearl meat.
Yeah, I guess it's in the...
Yeah.
Does that mean in the oyster or
I
whatever?
guess so.
Or the
That's-
clam? Where do you get a pearl?
I don't know. Talking to the wrong
Or is
person.
this totally something else entirely? Is pearl an animal that I just haven't heard of?
Was Pearl a person?
Oh, she's a great butcher.
Pearl's meat.
And
Come on down.
Come on down to Pearl's meat.
We're closed Saturdays, which is a bad business decision. But anyway, I love watching the big games. So I'm
3,
closed.
before the levee bank was built in 1974, cinema goers at Sun Pictures, the world's oldest outdoor cinema, would lift their feet as the tide came in. Oh, that sounds awesome. Rumor has it that you could catch a fish during a screening.
That is so
Oh,
cool.
that's cool.
I saw a great video during the recent flooding up north, and obviously it was a tough time. But there was one great video of a guy on the pokies with the window open and the water was up, and he had a fishing rod out there. So he's drinking a beer on the pokies while fishing out the window.
Ah,
It's really
and they
try-
say men can't multitask.
He's really trying his luck.
So Katie says, I share these facts in the hope to entice you to come and do a live episode in Broome, which would only be a 10-hour drive from my place. So I'd for sure make the trip for you lot and some Broome time. Little context on my title, my 4-year-old daughter must be taking tips from the Sass twins as she's really testing me with her sassiness. Thank you, Katie Clays.
That's great, Katie Clays. I haven't been to Broome. I would love to go.
I'd love to go to
either.
Broome
It's a
too.
long way away, but I'd love to
It
be
is a
there.
long way away. I think my my brother is, in that area, and we're thinking it would be nice to go and visit him because I haven't seen him for a while, but it is a long way to go.
Sounds like it could be worth the trip
Oh my
with
God.
those 3 facts.
Absolutely.
Next one comes from Ben Johnson, who has the title, Hi, I'm American actor Ben Johnson. You may remember me from such films as She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, Wagon Master, and Chisholm. I do, Ben. Ben has got a question. Hi, Matt. Can you read this first part in a joke nasty way? Like mean but fun. Also, wink at Dave so he knows it's a joke.
All right, I'm looking.
Oh, God,
Also,
it's gonna be
don't
brutal.
read out this bit. Thanks. Oh, fuck.
Well, I mean, you don't read it till you read it, so that's fair enough.
I've
that
said
you're
that many times.
Yeah.
I
That
think
was-
maybe Ben was hoping
He
that
was,
would happen.
yeah, he's probably.
That was
Or
a
not.
test.
That all went
I failed.
exactly as he planned. Now do the mean bit.
All right, question. How long does it take to read one fucking book? Answer. I'll let you know when the book cheat episode comes out. Is it because was he the one who commented something and you stopped doing? Is that Ben? Or is this a different thing? Which one of your many book cheat beefs is this about?
Ben is wanting me to read A Brief History of Time by
Right.
Stephen Hawking.
Uh-oh. The pitter-patter of a little dog.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
Goose
Hello,
is
little
home
dog.
Hi, Goose is
after a
home.
long,
Also,
hard day's work.
I'd love to point out that you didn't fucking wink at me, so I didn't get any
Oh.
of the humour. It just came across as an attack, Ben.
Okay, well, this makes sense because there's a bonus fact. When Stephen Hawking was diagnosed with motor neurone disease in 1963 at the age of just 21, he was estimated a life expectancy of 2 more years, but he showed those doctors the metaphorical middle finger and lived for another 55 years, dying in 2018 at the age of 76. Today, Hawking is buried at Westminster Abbey alongside the likes of Sir Isaac Newton and Charles Dickens.
Hi.
What did you think of that fact there, Goosey boy?
What do you think? That's me. That's me.
Hey, Goose.
I guess he...
Hey, Pop Pop. Oh, yes, I can hear it. It's coming through loud and clear, Goosey.
Any retort to Ben?
Ben, I've been doing a lot of reading in my little break from Book Cheat, and when we come back, some new books will be covered.
Yeah, he's been doing some reading, like Vows.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
how
Reading
about
out
that?
my vowels. Ben, you just got to stay tuned like everyone else. Book Cheat will be back soon, and we'll see. Will I cover
Book
Stephen
Cheat
Hawking?
will return. Thank you, Ben. And finally, from Daniel Ryan, aka Dude Who Can't Think of a Good Title, has got a brag.
Love a brag.
Love a brag. We love to see a brag.
Daniel writes, I recently got a job which allows me to support the pod in a way it deserves.
Oh, that's
in the way it
nice.
deserves. Thanks for the years of entertainment. It's helped me through breakups, deaths, and so much more hardship, which I'm sure is true for so many other listeners. Oh, thank you, Daniel. That's so
Daniel,
That's so nice, Daniel.
That's
We
such a
appreciate
nice-
that.
and congrats on the new
bit
gig.
braggy for me, but
Yeah.
thanks. That's very lovely. Congrats on the gig. Hope you're loving it.
That's great.
Another thing we like to do here at Do Go On is thank a few of our other supporters, normally with a little game Jess has come up with based on the topic at hand. So we're going to thank 3 supporters each. And Jess, what do you reckon? What are we going to give them each? Could be a nickname, Sheikh of Tweak style.
Yeah, I was thinking nickname, but we do that off. But we could go nickname, or I was thinking the two sports they're very good at. Because you know how he was very good at footy.
He was a Julie.
And then chose...
And tennis.
And tennis, yeah, okay. All right, the
Just an
3
all-round.
sports
no,
each.
let's go two. Two will run out of sports real quick.
You know, one that they sort of like was their first passion, and then something that took over.
Great. Love that.
I think.
And then I'll try and give him a rhyming nickname. No, that'll be very brutal. I'm glad you chose this one instead. Yep.
Yeah.
I'd love to thank, if I may begin, from Fitzroy North here in Melbourne, Australia, Dean Caldwell.
Dean Caldwell was actually very good at soccer.
Yep.
As a young person, and then actually what happened is one particular game, a fellow player sort of fell in front of him, and Dean did this very cool like jump over, and there was actually an athletics scout in the stand and went, "Ooh, that was quite a high jump you just did there. You might be very good at hurdles."
Yeah. And he was known as the rocker of soccer ever since.
I was thinking Fokker of soccer.
Yeah, that's that. I think that one's going to make the most sense of all the ones we do. We've started very good there.
Thank you.
Next up from Yarrawarra in New South Wales, Australia, it's Anna.
Anna, of course, very good swimmer growing up.
Yes, one of the best. Anna the fish, they called her.
She booked a table.
Mish Fish.
She booked a table at her local swimming club, but there was a bit of a mix-up, and she accidentally booked the pool table inside the clubhouse.
Yep.
And was very good at it, and became snooker world champion.
Whoa.
Wow.
Left the pool behind.
Wow.
The puker of
yeah.
snooker. She spewed up success.
You said, "Oh God, thank God I don't have to come up with nicknames," and you're doing it anyway,
I
and you're
know.
doing amazingly.
And finally from me, I'd love to thank from Collingwood, also here in Melbourne, Australia, it is Liz Brandt.
Liz Brandt, obviously Liz, a champion dancer as a
And
child.
Hungry Hippos.
That's Liz's second sport.
Yeah.
Hungry Hippos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
See, Dave and I have been like building stories around how things have happened, but yeah, dancer and then hungry hippos.
Well, the story is she was practicing dancing in her living room when she accidentally stood on one of the hippo's balls and invented a new move, which she called the hippo.
Yeah.
And then the good people at Mattel or whatever the brand who
Nestle.
probably make Nestle, whoever make hungry hippos, that the chocolate version of.
Yeah.
They came by and said, "We want to sponsor you. We've actually got a hippo tournament coming up." She played, was a natural, won the tournament, and
Killed the
became
world.
officially a double threat.
Yeah. So pretty cool for Liz there. May I thank some people as well?
Please.
Please do.
I would love to thank from Isleworth in Great Britain. Is it in London? Laura Diggin.
Laura
Digan?
Diggin.
Bowling down Digan's Alley. Beautiful 10-pin bowler. Forgot what the next part of that was. I was going to say 10...
10-pin bowling?
Pin bowling, yeah.
Yep.
So a real good 10-pin bowler.
Yeah, wow.
And after that, one time the cleaner was early cleaning the lanes, and Laura broke his ankle. And
Broke the cleaner's ankle?
The cleaner's ankle with a bowling ball.
Oh, my God.
And after that, was spotted by talent scouts from the heavy industry, and she went into deck collecting and became a world champion deck collector. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Breaking ankles, taking kneecaps. She did it all.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very impressive. And well done to you, Laura. I would also love to thank from Hastings here in Victoria, Heidi Russell.
Heidi Russell, of course, started out as a fencer as a child.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of children started sword play.
Yeah.
On guard.
Sword play, and then obviously when you're a child, people throw siblings throw things at you.
Yes.
And Heidi was just hitting them back in the air, and then someone said, "You know what? You should play badminton."
Yes.
So,
Yes.
world champion
Whoa,
badminton
that's
player.
good.
That's right. I wanted to be a fencer, but
Rocker of the shuttlecocker, they called her.
Yes, that's what they called Heidi. And finally, for me, I'd love to thank from Lang Warren, also in Victoria, Natalie Spirison.
Natalie Spirison played in the WNBA, highest level of basketball.
Yep.
But when shooting a shot was discovered, someone in the crowd said, "Shooting, geez, she's good at shooting."
Yeah.
I said, "Imagine if we took the ball out of her hand and put a gun in there."
Okay.
Classic America.
She went to the Olympics, won gold in clay pigeon shooting, if that is...
Wow.
It's probably
Wow.
target shoot. What is it called? Is it called
Clay shooting?
Clay shooting.
I'm not
Trap?
sure.
Trap.
Trap.
Yeah, and she also this doesn't count, but also got into music and made a trap album that was also
Wow.
big, underground but big in
That is
that
amazing.
underground. Yeah. Dave, do you want to take us home?
Hey, I'd like to take you home by thanking from Helston in Great Britain. The name is all one word, Holla Me. Holla
Me.
Follow me.
Holla me. Holla me.
Follow me.
Holla me, everything is alright. Remember that song?
That's that's in my bottom 10 all-time songs. Uncle Cracker.
Uncle Cracker.
Bottom 10.
Yeah.
What else is in there? I'd love to hear this.
Scar
quickly.
Tissue by Red Hot Chili Peppers.
No.
Yeah. Last Kiss by Pearl Jam.
Oh, where is that one?
Yeah.
Would my baby be?
These songs
Yeah,
aren't
fair.
that. They're not that
No,
bad.
but that's not a good Pearl
Okay,
Jam
yeah,
song.
no.
I think maybe it's because they're often by pretty decent bands, but they're just dull
They disappoint.
songs.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, okay, that's understandable.
I haven't updated the list in a long time. I've become more positive since my angsty years.
Yeah.
Holla me
Started out.
in rowing.
Started out in rowing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in the rowing, and then one time had a elbow injury, so they were sitting out for a little while, and so they were doing a lot of lower body exercise
Yeah.
while the elbow healed, and they were discovered doing
Footsie,
footsie,
professional footsie.
professional footsie. That's
Were
right.
you looking for help?
Yes.
And did I
Footsie?
give you some?
Footsie?
Yes.
Footsie, futsal.
Footsie.
Futsal.
No, footsie.
Footsie. Under the table.
On the
Yeah,
table
great.
footsie.
Like the classic Ronnie Cheng bit. I won. Remember that bit?
No.
That's
That's
when we
It's
were
raw
playing
comedy.
footsie with his sister. Playing footsie with my sister. I won. Yeah, great couple of sports there from Holla Me.
Holla me. I would like to thank from Coburg here in Victoria, Jess Mitchell.
Jess Mitchell.
Jess Mitchell, of course, started out skiing.
Yep.
And ended up, after falling off a slope down a cliff, she started rock climbing.
Oh, right.
Self-taught for survival.
Just had to come back up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got real
It's
good at
amazing
it.
what you can learn when your life depends on it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what I was missing at school. The stakes were not high enough.
Yeah, like if the swimming coach had put their gun to your head and said, look, you're going to do the freestyle in under 2 minutes.
Then maybe I would have done it.
I
Yeah.
reckon
But
you can do
nobody
it.
was pushing me.
Yeah.
So I was like, nah, I can't
You
do
need to-
swimming. I got my period. That worked every time.
Every time. You heard that for quite a while. Yeah, I know.
I know.
That's why I
It's
need
a
to sit
concern.
out. Yeah.
Thanks, Jess. And finally, I'd like to thank from, that's Jess Mitchell I'm thanking, not you. I would like to
Oh,
thank
I got
Never
it.
you.
Never me.
I'd like to thank from East Victoria Park in Western Australia. Why is that East Victoria Park
Yeah.
in Western Australia?
Couldn't be more west from Victoria.
Erin Holbeach.
Erin Holbeach. Holbeach is a fantastic name.
Love that.
And actually quite fitting because Erin is a champion surfer. Spent a lot of
Right.
time at the beach.
Okay.
Champion surfer. Got
And-
bit by a shark.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not bit, like a little bite. Not didn't
A small nibble.
small nibble, but it made Erin think. And then Erin got really into cycling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I'm not going in the water anymore.
Yeah, you know what? Surfing, and then I get all sandy.
And I'm already world champion of that.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah, I've
What else can we
I've
do?
clocked it.
Yeah, done.
It's boring to me now.
What else?
So yeah, and Erin's a champion cycler. You know, the ones in the little velodrome and
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
that's
the
pretty cool.
roundy roundies.
Yeah, the roundy roundies in the Olympics. Very cool stuff. Did you see the Olympics? The most recent Olympics when the guy's handlebars fell off his bike?
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Not actually. He was going quite fast and it was a bad
Yeah,
injury,
that was
but
full on.
crazy. Anyway,
Thank you so much to Erin, Jess, Holome, Natalie, Heidi, Laura, Liz, Anna, and Dean. And the last thing we like to do here is thank a few of our long-term supporters. They've been on the shout-out level or above for 3 straight years. It's the Triptych Club. This is a club that's both in our hearts and minds. It's Theatre of the Mind. I'm going to be standing at the door. There's a velvet rope. I've got a clipboard. If your name's on it, I'm going to welcome you in after lifting up that rope. Dave's on stage. He's going to really hype you up. He's your hype man. Everyone who's already in the club is there chanting along with your name. Jess is hyping Dave because he's not very good at this and he needs a bit of backup.
yeah.
That's
You're-
not the reason.
you're
It's because it's nice to hype up the hype man.
Yeah,
every
it's
once
nice
in
to
a
be
while.
nice to your friends.
And then Jess...
Unlike you don't know what that's fucking
Jess
about,
is a
do you?
double threat. She's also behind the bar coming up with a cocktail. What's the Warnie?
It's VB.
VB, yeah.
Yeah.
VB, oh,
But
yeah.
I put it in a tall glass and I put an umbrella in it.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's ice cold.
Red Bull vodka's also available.
It's always available. It's an open bar.
And Dave, you normally book a band?
You're never going to believe this.
What?
I obviously booked this months and months and months in advance.
Yeah,
and I
so
have,
what? You're telling me that it somehow coincides with what we've talked about today?
I somehow have the greatest quattro of all time.
Whoa.
What?
Performing live together.
What?
We've got Chris Martin.
No.
The Boss, Bruce Springsteen.
Holy
What?
shit.
Old Blue Eyes himself, Frank Sinatra.
Oh my
Holy
God.
And
moly.
on harmonica, Shane Keith Warne.
Whoa!
All performing together. Like
That
that
is something, I
time,
didn't mention that story, but he did play harmonica with Coldplay on stage. at a
I
big-
saw them. I was
Oh,
at that gig.
really?
And it
Where
was
to? We've talked about
one
that.
of the most...
Amazing.
the whole crowd was like, is that Shane Warne?
That's so cool.
It was very surprising, but now a great memory.
So cool.
And then he was... Honestly, he was in key. He was a decent harmonica player. So
Okay.
Love that.
him with the Boss,
Quadruple
Frank,
threat.
and
Oh, that'd be beautiful. Chris.
and
Was it
Chris Martin, of
interesting
course.
that you didn't have Muhammad Ali there singing along like he is in the mural? Famous.
Hey, you can't get everyone.
No, that's true.
We'll try. We're still working on getting
Yeah,
Muhammad
that's
another
right.
time.
I contact these people all the time.
Yeah.
All right, so we got 7 inductees. Are you ready to bring them in?
Are you ready to not be a grumpy negative ass when Dave does an amazing job?
Okay. Dave used to do such a great job.
Oh
Don't get
my
me wrong.
God.
He used to a while back.
When did I do a good job at this?
Early days, but I feel like you've lost the passion. Anyway, let's see if it has returned when we welcome in from Seattle in Washington, United States, Stephanie P.
Stephanie P, the one for me.
Yeah,
Come on down.
Stephanie.
Oh, maybe he is back. And from Four Ways in ZA. Is that Switzerland or something? No. Where would I get Switzerland from ZA?
So,
ZA. Jeez, that's halted.
Yeah, it could be.
ZA. Oh, South Africa.
Oh, pardon us.
From South Africa, from Four Ways in South Africa, it's Beatrix Williams.
Beatrix Williams from Four Ways. Four-way stop. Everyone stop. Beatrix is here.
yes.
Come on.
Come on
just-
through,
just keep
Beatrix.
talking.
Don't know if I fully understand. But
Shut
from
up.
Covington in Kentucky in the United States, it's Ray Jan Wilson.
You can call him Ray. You can call him Jan. You can call him Wilson, but we'll call him Ray Jan Wilson.
Yes. And
From-
welcome.
St. John in Indiana in the United States, it's Kathy Payonk.
Oh, Kathy, pay on. Kathy's paying off. Paying off.
Yes.
From Zephyrillus in Florida in the United States, it's Albert Favre.
Sorry, that pronunciation really threw me off.
Albert Favre.
Favre.
Just your lack of confidence in the word was very funny.
Favre.
You're my favourite.
Yeah, okay, great. Yes, good.
From Oxnard in California in the United States, it's Brian Stafford. We're running out of steam.
We really are.
You ruined the momentum.
Oxnard is a Foxnard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Brian.
finally, from Austin, Texas, stay weird in the United States, it's Alec Ruiz Guerrero.
Ruiz, more like Rules.
Yeah, Alex
Yeah.
Rulers.
Welcome into the club, Alec, Brian,
Just
Albert,
really helps.
Kathy, Ray-Jan, Beatrix, and Stephanie. And that
Yes.
brings us to the end of the episode. Bob, what do we have to tell them anything before we go?
Just if you want to suggest a topic, you can do so. There's a link in the show notes. You can also do it at dogoonpod.com. And you can follow us on all social media, dogoonpod across all those, and dogoonpod@gmail.com if you want to flick us an email.
Love that.
Nice. Hey, we'll be back next week with another episode, as we always are. But until then, I'll say thank you and I'll say goodbye.
Later.
Bye.
In April 1990, oh geez, a couple of friends of mine are almost born around that time. Daryl and Jen Jessington.
Jen Jessington?
Jen Jessington.
Daryl
Yeah, Daryl.
and
Jen.
Jessington.
Yeah,
Are they
couple-
married? Well, is that a couple?
No, they're brother and sister.
Oh, okay.
They were,
Twins.
A couple of my friends. They were born in 1990. Doesn't matter. I don't know what.
Well, if they were brother and sister and they were both born that year, they're either born...
yeah, maybe 9 months apart, Jess.
Okay, that's literally what I was about to say.
Oh,
you
Jess.
rude fuck. One was born early in the year.
I'm not sure why you brought up Daryl and Jen, but yeah, they're great
Daryl
people.
and Jen Jessington?
Yes.